Uh, Good afternoon or good evening. Calling to order the March 19, 2024 meeting of the Southborough Select Board. The first item on our agenda is public comment. This is an opportunity for individuals who want to make a comment about an item which is not on the agenda to address the board, and it's not intended as a back and forth or as a deliberation, but an opportunity to comment. And we keep public comments to 3 minutes. Is there anyone that wishes to offer public comment? Okay. Okay. Hello, sir.
Hi, this is Bruce Sturgeon. I live at 40 Atwood Street here in Southborough.
Okay, yes.
My wife and I are the abutters on the south side of the old water tower property, and our house is located only 10 feet away from that property. I should ask, is it appropriate for me now to address the lead contamination, or should I wait till later?
It's up to you, really. So
Okay, I'd like to proceed then. Thank you. According to that PAR report, we agree that the town should investigate the property of all affected abutters. But because we're so close to the highest concentrations of that hazardous waste, we request that our property be tested sooner rather than later. And also at a depth that's most likely to contain the highest lead levels, which seems to be about 24 inches down. That preliminary investigation showed the highest concentrations, up to 8 times the reporting level around the tower drip line and at a depth of 12 to 24 inches. Our property is only steps away from these
Recording in progress.
Concentrations and downhill from the tower. We're concerned. We have young grandchildren that stay with us every summer, and we want the assurance that running barefoot through those sprinklers will not be hazardous to their health because of the lead contamination. I just want to say we do appreciate the town's transparency with this preliminary lead investigation report. So thank you for that. I'm done.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And we will look into it and get back to you. Right. Are there any other comments? Okay, so the next item on the agenda is a joint meeting with Oh, you're good. Okay. We're going to have a joint meeting with the planning board regarding 2 items. Approval of the 2024 National Grid Vegetation Management Plan. And the second item is the discussion of the MBTA Communities Bylaw and Special Town Meeting. Mrs. Luttrell, would you like to call your meeting to order?
Yes. Is this on? Now? The planning board is now in session.
So we have the proposed vegetation management plan in the packet. I know I've reviewed it, and so we have someone from here from Grid who can give a quick overview.
Yes, we have online, we have Luke Fisk from National Grid. Vanessa, I don't know if you want to bring him over.
All right.
Hello.
So, sir, just kind of looking for a quick overview before we begin the discussion.
Yep.
Yep.
Luke Fisk, National Grid Manager for Bay State East. This is similar to what you guys approved last year for the annual vegetation routine pruning. It's different from the hazard tree process that we went through. Just looking at maintaining the existing clearances around the existing structures along the streets that we provided you with the circuit maps of.
All right, so this is just pruning, no removal of trees, right?
It is pruning. It includes, we do ask for the flat cutting as well. That's the small trees from about sapling sized up to 8-inch diameter underneath the conductors, as were in the specifications that were provided.
Right.
The specs have not changed from the last time you guys approved it.
Al, do you have any questions?
No, I have to recuse myself from portions of this because of an abutter, my close relatives in a butter, and provides access to the national grid.
Okay. Well, I mean, one of the ways we could do it is we could just carve out, if we take a vote, carve out that portion and then,
Yeah, if it's the portions right along Northborough Road.
okay. All right. Any questions from the select board?
No, I looked at it and it seems to me to be pretty reasonable. I mean, it seems to me that, again, consistent with what I recall from last time around. I mean, the only question I have, I mean, it is open-ended in the sense that you don't know exactly what's going to happen out there, but I guess I have confidence that National Grid knows what they need to do to protect the wires. So yeah, I'm okay with it.
And this is just preventative pruning so that power lines don't fall down during ice storms and things like that, right?
That's correct. You have to keep the limbs from growing into the lines, keep the vines from growing up the poles and down the lines, causing interruptions in service.
So I don't have any questions. It looks fine to me, but this is not my field of expertise. So I will hold any possible questions till we hear from planning board. So okay with me so far?
Marguerite?
No question. Questions? No? Hi, Luke. My name's Debbie. I have a question whether you coordinate with other users of the poles, any other phone or internet or any other providers. When your vegetative management plans, do you coordinate with other companies?
No, we do not. We solely trim for the electrical assets alone. Years ago, the electric company and the cable companies used to trim together. That no longer occurs. That hasn't occurred in a couple decades. So we only trim for our assets.
Okay, thank you.
Although I think that if the lines for grid are impacted, any other lines on the same poles are probably going to be impacted. So.
They do see some benefit from what we trim, but we do not trim the phone and cable lines. So you will still see growth going through the phone and cable lines. Some of them will push down on them, grow through them. If they happen to fall within our clearance zone of the 10 feet above, 6 to the side, 10 below, they will see the benefit. But for the most part, we are not intentionally pruning for phone and cable.
Right.
I just have one clarification. So any trees or hazard tree removals that are over 8 inches go through the normal hearing process?
That is correct. That is correct.
I have no further questions.
All set? Is there any public comment?
Woodland Road. Sorry, you're stuck with me again. I too am concerned about the lack of coordination between National Grid and the other tenants on the poles. I've seen that, of course, we're not seeing vegetation management plans from the cable companies and the other tenants on the poles. And from a coordination point of view, every time people are out there, it means that police are tied up on details, the roads are blocked. And it seems to me that in addition to being more of a public nuisance than it needs to be, it also would be less expensive for the utilities to get it all done at once and to do some coordinating. I'm curious from National Grid, why you stopped coordinating and what it would take to get you to coordinate again.
The cease and coordination happened before my time, but from what I am told, the cable companies withdrew from the agreement. It was not a National Grid choice. It was them withdrawing from us. They used to pay National Grid or the electric companies, and they withdrew, and we don't trim at all in that zone.
And from the select board / tree warden, I'm wondering, what efforts need to be made in order to get the other companies to first provide the plans and then think about coordinating.
They do.
All right, well, I think this is a comment that kind of relates to like the next round of, doesn't necessarily affect what we're gonna do now, but is an interesting thing so that Grid can think about it for FY 26. Yes, Marguerite?
I believe that it's 10 feet above, 6 feet out and 10 feet under. And I think that the electrical lines are on the top and the cable tends to be under within the 10 feet.
But just to be clear, we don't have a plan from Charter and from
Any of those.
Comcast or any of them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, but this isn't a reason to not approve it.
Oh, I agree. But just to be clear, we don't have one. And so why would we be worried about them coming in and doing something when they don't have a plan to begin with? They're not just going to show up. I wouldn't think.
And
Hope not.
Grid is required to provide the vegetation plan by, I guess it's state law or regulation or whatever. The cable companies, to the best of my knowledge, are not. So I don't think we got a lot of leverage. It's a good point, Mr. Litt, but I think we have much leverage on other entities here, but certainly worth keeping in mind.
Yeah, my impression is that those other services are actually more robust in terms of being able to accept a tree. When a tree interferes with the power lines, you get shorts. But I think there's less chance of catastrophic failure. And so that they probably, work to failure rather than trying to do preventive.
Okay. Yeah, so Tim, I'm gonna move I move that the board approve well, first I'll just carve out the Northborough Road parcels.
Used from the whole thing.
Just recuse yourself from the whole thing. We're going to,
Okay.
Yeah, we know how this is gonna
go.
so.
All right. I move that the select board approve National Grid's proposed vegetation management plan for fiscal year 2025.
Second.
All those in favor? All those opposed?
I make a motion that the planning board approve the National Grid 2025 vegetation maintenance program.
I second.
All in favor?
all
All
right,
right.
unanimous.
Okay, so the next item. Why don't I just turn it over to you, Mrs. Luttrell, for just to, where we are, where you are in terms of your planning for next steps and.
So I just want to walk us through where we started, where we've gone and
Yeah, sure.
where we are. So the MBTA Community Law, Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 3A was enacted in January of 2021. The draft guidelines came out in December of 2021. After that, the planning board members educated themselves by attending many, many informational webinars. We wrote a comment letter in coordination with SHOPSI and the Select Board in March of 2022. The final guidelines came out in August of 2022. And then they've been revised in October of 2022. And the last revision was in August of 2023. Starting in February of 2022, the Planning Board had an MBTA discussion item on 36 meetings. We've held 2 public information forums in September of 2023. We had held 2 public mapping sessions in November of 2023. We had 2 mapping working sessions. We had 1 bylaw working session and 2 public hearings. We received a grant through MHP, Mass Housing Partnership, which is a nonprofit that works in coordination with the state on housing, for technical assistance on complying with MBTA. Through that, we got someone from CHAPA to help us with public outreach, and she, Lily Link from CHAPA came and did our 2 public information sessions. And we got Bowler Engineering to run our mapping through the compliance model. In December of 2023, we submitted the maps after going through the mapping sessions and working sessions and our criteria that we applied to them. And then in January of 2023, Bowler came back and said that our maps were compliant. Right after that, we got the bylaw, started working on that, and then the chair of our advisory committee raised a question on whether those compliance models were actually in compliance, specifically within a half mile of the train station. And we were assured many times they weren't, but finally they went back and checked to find out in February or March that that section was not in compliance. So that area, as you know, was deemed qualified for National Historic Area by the Mass Historical Society. There used to be a mill down there, and there are many historic homes in there. Fitzy's General Store was a store for the mill. And many of the lots are non-compliant. They're very, very small lots. So I think that has helped save many of those historic buildings down there. So because of that, when the current zoning was applied and went through the compliance model, we couldn't get the required unit capacity, which is 150 units down there, which I don't know how that will be possible. Also, as you know, we only own on the north side of the train tracks. The other side is Hopkinton. There's a river, so half of all of the south side of Southfield Road is in the riverfront area. So it's a very challenging area to try and get 150 units. So a couple of things. The planning board plans to work in 2 tracks, and speak up anyone if I say anything out of turn, to try and figure out if there's any way to make that area compliant, and to ask the state to give us more time, because the state assigned this pre-qualified consultant to help us gain compliance, and evidently the pre-qualified consultant did not know what they were doing and led us astray for 3 months before we found out that we were not in compliance. And also ask if we can get a reduction in unit capacity in that one area.
When you say asked if we can get a reduction, you ask the state?
Yeah,
So there's a pending request about that from that?
no,
No, okay.
we're here.
Yeah.
We're here.
Sounds like a reasonable thing to do, for sure. I mean, what's the downside of asking them if they can give us some relief on it? And I think we probably all get, I mean, we know the area, we know how small those lots are. We get the fact that, unless you change the underlying zoning, dimensional zoning, that you really are gonna have a tough time probably making each separate parcel comply. You got the 40 outside, that's fine. But they want the 10 acres has to comply too on its own, right? So
With
we
unit
get your
capacity also.
issue. We get your issue. So I absolutely encourage you to ask the state for relief, given, number one, you've got this awkward, we're right on the border of Hopkinton. So you've got a semicircle, not a whole circle to be able to pick from. So I think you've got a pretty good case to be made. I don't know if you throw Bowler under the bus at the same time, because it is kind of pitiful.
Well, supposedly they were pre-qualified by the state. So I think the state has some,
Well, okay, but I'm not sure I'd go
responsibility.
there with the state if you're asking, you might want to keep it, but if when you're asking for this, but, I think you've got a case to make too, that, you know, you told us these guys knew they knew the law, they knew how to do it, you gave us money to do it. And, you know, anybody with a little bit of common sense would, I think, I would have thought, I knew that each parcel had to, at least I thought each parcel had to comply, because it would make sense if it didn't. If they want the density to be next to train station, why would they let you put it on the 40 acres? So I think you've got a good case to make as far as we got a group that even when they came to us, made all kinds of excuses instead of just saying, we messed up, you know, well, you could have done this, you could have done that, you wouldn't have time. So I definitely would say, that's one tack to take, is to try to get the state to relax what's the 10 acres.
I think we can do the acreage. It's the minimum unit capacity of 150 units, which would be very.
So you think you can get there? I thought you just said a minute ago, you thought you couldn't get
We have the
there.
land. We had mapped out 11 acres, but we only got what was it, 49 units?
Yep,
No,
33%.
Whether,
Yeah, I think there may be two tracks, I guess. One, I think clearly pushing quickly and hard on the state to say, let's do something reasonable here. Second, I did watch the meeting where the Bowler folks were reporting, and very frustrating that not only did they make the mistake, but they backpedaled and made every excuse for why it wasn't their fault. I think there's value in putting pressure on Bowler to go back and find more senior people, more experienced people, and throw the resources in here to help us find other creative ways to do this potentially, versus sending the B team in to struggle around and come up with the wrong answer and waste our time. And maybe give us a refund even, occurred to me, but
Will certainly not be
we didn't
charged for
think-
anything
Oh.
further.
The
I mean,
state,
whatever.
This was
Okay.
a state,
give us a refund anyway for our time, wasted time.
although it's all our money anyway.
But yeah, Bowler though, in theory, Bowler has, senior people who are presumably more experienced than the folks that we had, and getting more focus on finding an acceptable solution seems to me to be Bowler's responsibility at this point. And you could ask, and maybe they can't find one, but at least it's worth trying in parallel with a state request.
But the real problem probably is timing. This is really going to have to
Marguerite.
go fast.
no.
Oh, don't go ahead, Kathy. I was just timing, yes, because it's.
Speak.
Oops. We're under the gun for time, but is it possible, do you think you can get the density that's needed? If you can reduce the density down by the train station, can you get the numbers into the other parcels?
So we're required a unit capacity of 750 units. Overall, we had 828. So
I thought it was 900 something.
or
800
maybe it
something.
was,
At the 90293. So yeah,
so we meet,
Yeah, we got the
we met
total.
the capacity overall. It's just that we needed 20% of that unit capacity
More.
to be within a half mile.
Right, and we only have a half a circle, basically.
that's right.
And, oh, yeah, in a river,
And
in many historic.
historical.
Other than
Teeny
that,
rock.
fine, right, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, Kathy, sorry.
So I was just trying to get to the
I know.
timing.
I'll get there. Al?
So, yes, the state paid for the consultant, but we certainly paid for, town council. We paid for the town planner's time. And, of course, your time, which, as you know, I'm sure you make as much as we do up here.
We make less than.
And so my recommendation is to have a conversation with town council. I think the town should expect, a mistake of this magnitude to be fixed promptly and fixed properly at no expense to us, and to recognize the costs that it has imposed on this community, setting up and organizing ourselves for a town meeting and then having to pull out at the last minute, is not acceptable, regardless of how you feel about this thing. We are paying for a certain minimal standard of professionalism, which we appear not to have received.
Yeah, I'm less interested in getting the money back than getting an answer that works, I guess. So I would certainly raise that question, but push on Bowler and the state to come up with something that can work for us.
And so
You-
I think the one thing that I'm focused on, and the reason to address this in a joint meeting, is to coordinate the timing of a special town meeting. Because on a different track, the select board has been talking about, and we'll address this later tonight. There's a level, the police budget in the town warrant is a level services budget. And our intention is to, for a fall town meeting, come forward with a specific proposal about regional dispatch options. And so there's a little bit of a tension there about, we need some time to keep doing that. Well, I feel the planning board, and I'll want to hear what you think about this. Do you want to preserve like a second bite of the apple? If it doesn't go, that you need enough time to redo it before December 31st. And then the dates please correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, that town
September 23rd to October 5th.
September 23rd to October 5th. So, and those are dates that town clerk and the moderator say work for them. And the idea that we'd be thinking is a weeknight. So does that work for you, September 23rd, October 5th? And then you get into, I've been warned that after you go October 5th, there's a presidential election and there's early voting from that. And we can't, get too close to it just will not work for town clerk's office.
I think there's some more facts who got interjected at this point before Mimi talks about the date. One of the reasons we've got to have the special town meeting kind of in that window is because we're talking about possibly increasing the police department budget. We're going to do a study and we're going to bring the study forward to special town meeting. So it might include increasing that. So that's why we've got to have it fairly early, because possibility's got to have a chance to set the tax rate. But what Mimi we haven't given her a chance to say is, so Mimi, stay up here. One of the things the state allows you to do is submit your plan ahead of time, but they got to have 90 days for that. And they decided they want to do that this time. So we did this on our fingers a minute ago. They'd have to have it totally done to the state by July 1st to meet what we're talking about here, July, August, September. And this is already, we got town meeting. So it's basically April and May and June. They'd have only 3 months to truly remap the 10 acres, run it through the model, have meetings with the public, et cetera. So it's pretty tight.
I don't see a way around it though.
No, I mean, they can try, but
So one of the things I think we need to consider too is, I agree September earlier is better, because if it doesn't pass, then we possibly need to consider an additional special, and it would have to be, I think it's 45 days, Mark, to call a special. So you'd be looking at the end of November, beginning of December, potentially with this item on there if it doesn't pass the first time. So September, I think, I don't know from the clerk's point of view, but I think from a process point of view, makes that more doable, that if there is a question and
To
it
go
has
earlier?
to come back. I'm sorry?
To go earlier than?
Yeah, to do September. I
Late
would think the
September.
23rd, it gives you time and it gives the planning board time as well.
I just want to point out the silver lining in all this is that it gives us time to think about where we might want some mixed use development, which is part of our master plan, and also the affordable housing component. And hopefully that there would be time, maybe Mimi can speak to this, but time to do the feasibility study. I think, speaking for only myself, but I believe most of the board members feel that we would like to increase the affordability component, which is set at 10% by the state, and we would have an opportunity to 20% if we qualify by July.
I think you just outlined why you can't get this done. I mean, it's all good stuff, but boy.
Yeah, my only comment regarding this threshold is already a high threshold for getting an MBT community approved in our town. I think you're adding 2 subsequent layers that can't be tackled in this particular, in my humble opinion. I think it's going to be a stretch to try to do that. I think that the request here, I know, is to write a joint letter. So to get the select board to agree to ask for relief on timing. I think the fact that the town clerk made the mention that it is a presidential election, that should be factored into this letter as well, because I do think that puts undue pressure on our town. And the third point is to include the historic component as well as relief on the housing. So I just wanted to reinforce what we need from that. And I agree. I think the September 23rd to the 5th works for me. So I think that we will continue to work that path.
So, and you feel, Lisa, we should aim for the earlier part of that, September 23rd.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
suggest September, because then if you have to regroup and come back again in, with 45 days, you may get an extra week or two, again, depending on when the clerk could do it. So again, that would be, I'm one of five, but that would be my preference to you is, any extra time that we could have to make changes or tweaks that need to be made to bring it back would be beneficial.
So we'd need June.
Mimi, and the 90 days, does the state have a backlog and they're running over 90 days? Why did I think that was?
So now they're at 90 days. Like nothing's been turned around in 89. They're at 90. I would guess as more towns ask that maybe things will change, but right now they're at.
So they're literally turning them around on the 90th day?
Yeah.
So they're trying to comply with what they said, but they're
Yeah.
barely making it?
Yeah.
So are you going to prepare a draft letter for us to review? Okay, and then I think you have to plan that whatever request for extension is going to be, is not going to
Correct.
be allowed.
Yeah.
Which is why we want to work
Yeah,
on
yeah.
the past.
Yeah.
Or you don't get it in time. Who knows how fast you're gonna get the answer. to the
And just
survey.
another thing that I think be conscious of is this was like 2 years ago, at least 18 months ago, there was a draft letter that I think was also from the select board and the planning board. When they, I may be totally wrong on this. When the state created the additional flexibility to start to locate part of it, not just around the train station, this was an issue that was already,
Yeah, been
the
raised.
whole issue, the
Right.
same issue was described in there.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can use a
Yeah,
lot
as
of
we
that.
told you before, we can't do it.
Well, I
Right.
mean, I was thinking that's, now we're using like the same reason for another
Yeah.
ask, but
But we've now determined we can't do it. We've gone further. We've done all this and look where we ended up, 49 units.
Yeah.
And in the letter, I'd point out politely but firmly that a lot of this came from their recommended qualified consultant.
Keep emphasizing that like every other paragraph.
Right, yeah. Well, yeah. Well, so
That's right.
we
That's right.
wasted almost 2 years.
Yeah.
Did you hear what Al said? You're a consultant, you're talking to the state. You're a
In
consultant.
capitals,
Yeah.
YOUR.
Right. Well, they assigned, MHP assigned us this consultant who was pre-qualified. Correct. Yeah. Yep.
okay.
So do we have permission to reach out to town council for his advice?
Sure.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Are we adjourned?
Sure. I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you very much.
So later on, I think we're gonna try to pick the actual dates. We'll let you know. Oops.
Okay. Andrew, is this about the MBTA communities?
It is. I just wanted to add real quick, again, Andrew Pfaff, 50 Oak Hill. I still think it was a good idea if we're going to petition the state to also petition state auditor on whether or not it is an unfunded mandate. I think that ruling still would be helpful for citizens of the town to understand.
I don't agree, but.
You don't agree
Keep
with what
this
you do, or you
narrowly
don't think it is an
focused.
unfunded mandate?
It sounds like a stretch. Sounds like it's kind of more in the complaining category, but that's my view.
But maybe.
Yeah, I
at the
mean,
end of
it's-
the day,
Yeah,
maybe
if it-
You talk to him.
yeah, I think it's just, for me, it's just if it's a one-page paper to write to ask them to say it's not, and then that gives us ammunition to anybody that says we didn't check.
Okay.
I don't see any downside in asking the question.
I don't agree.
Is there downside?
This isn't something that's on the agenda or, but
It
so,
is. We're talking about the MBTA as part of it.
so you're gonna prepare a draft letter that addresses this issue that you've discussed. All right, thanks.
Okay.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is we have a series of poll hearings. So Mark, I guess you need to read the public notice for each one.
Yeah. And while I'm doing that, if I could just ask Vanessa to bring Al over. Thank you. Southborough Select Board shall hold a public hearing Tuesday, March 19, 2024, 6:35 in the McAuliffe Hearing Room at Southborough Townhouse, 17 Common Street, Southborough, Mass. To consider a petition by Mass Electric Company, National Grid, and Verizon New England Incorporated to install one joint-owned pole near 121 Northborough Road. The meeting may also be listened to or viewed by the public through a link located at https / Mass Southborough .civicplus.com /674 / virtual meetings.
All right, and so we have someone from National Grid here.
Yep, Al is here. Can probably describe to you what they are requesting. And this is the proposal for 121 Northborough Road.
And I have to recuse myself.
Okay.
on-
All
This is
right.
the only one I have to recuse.
121?
The second one's far enough away.
Yeah, it's Al Galvin, engineer at National Grid here.
Good evening.
Yeah, so what we typically do is if you just a couple quick sentences, quick overview. I mean, I've got the information here. Is there anything else you want to speak to?
Sorry, which out of the 4 jobs were you referencing first?
We're gonna go 121 Northborough Road and then 154 Northborough.
Oh, okay, so those are the feeders, right? The feeder monitors?
Yes.
Yeah, so basically they had to install an intermediate pole to install one of these feeder monitors to get proper readings out there. They need to have a straight line. So this was a spot where they could put a pole in line with 2 existing poles and install the monitor there to properly run checks on the voltages and things like that out in that spot.
And any questions from the board?
All this looks pretty straightforward to me.
All right. And is there any public comment?
No hands up.
Okay. I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor? I move that the board approve the poll application for 121 Northborough Road.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay. And next mark is 154.
Yes, 154, Southborough Select Board shall hold a public hearing Tuesday, March 19, 2024, 6:40 PM. McAuliffe Hearing Room, Southborough Townhouse, 17 Common Street, Southborough, Mass. To consider a petition by Mass Electric Company, National Grid, Verizon New England Incorporated to install one joint-owned pole, 154 Northborough Road. Meeting may also be listened to or viewed by the public through a link located at masssouthborough.civicplus.com /674 virtual meetings.
All right. And if you can give us a quick overview of this one too.
Yep, similar situation. There was a spot there for an intermediate pole with 2 existing poles to make a straight line for stability of the lines and things like that for this equipment's weight and proper readings that are necessary. Can't have it on a curve or any of that situation. And some of the other poles in that area already had equipment on it, so this is a good spot like the other to install an intermediate pole and put the feeding monitor up there to monitor the system.
Any questions from the board?
Nope.
Any questions from the comments from the public?
No hands up.
I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor? I move that the board approve the petition to install intermediate pole near 121 Northborough Road.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, 2 more to go. So next up is 20 Jericho Hill Road.
So we're a little ahead, but
Oh,
if you're good with that,
uh,
6:45.
I don't think anyone is coming here.
I
so-
think we're okay.
Okay,
Southborough Select Board hold a public hearing on Tuesday, March 19, 2024, 45 PM in the McAuliffe Hearing Room, Southborough Townhouse, 17 Common Street, Southborough, Mass. To consider a petition by Mass Electric Company, National Grid, and Verizon New England Incorporated to install one joint-owned joint owned pole at 20 Jericho Hill Road. Meeting may also be listened to or viewed by the public through a link located at mass.southborough.civicplus.com/674 virtual meetings.
Would you like to give us a quick overview of this one as well?
Sure. Similar thing, a couple of poles there that were clear of existing equipment. We were able to put an intermediate pole there for a straight shot, keep the lines and stability in line with what it currently is. And it's in a good spot where it's not affecting any abutters, things of that nature. So this is a good location for this feeding monitor to monitor the system in that location.
Andrew, I do have a question about this.
Sure.
It relates to all of them. There's language in all of these that allow for a crossbar to support town communication lines or whatever. Do we actually have those lines on all of these poles we're talking about here? Is this something that for the future? Al,
Talking about for the other
question for you.
communication for
Yeah.
like Comcast and things of that nature.
Right. Are
If
those,
they're if they're currently out there, I believe from a picture I have on one of them anyway that I can let me see this double. Trying to see if I could see the existing pole out there if they had cross arms currently.
Yeah.
Let's see.
not a big deal. It's good to have the capacities to do that, certainly, but I was just curious if we actually use those poles for those purposes.
Yeah, if the let me see what my picture shows. Looks like the one on Northborough Road. I don't see a cross arm for the telecommunications lines right now, but they could when they have to transfer their lines onto this new pole, they can certainly add it on to keep stability of their lines so it doesn't sag and things of that nature.
But the new pole will have the cross arm there based on this permit, or at least it could have.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the public? I move that we the board close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor? I move that the board approve the poll petition for 20 Jericho Hill Road.
Second.
All those in favor?
At precisely 6:45 p.m. We're back on schedule.
Okay.
Close.
All right.
Southborough Select Board shall hold a public hearing Tuesday, March 19, 2024, 6:50 p.m. In the McAuliffe Hearing Room at the Southborough Townhouse, 17 Common Street, Southborough, Mass. Consider a petition by Mass Electric Company, National Grid, Verizon New England Incorporated to install one joint owned pole at 33 Turnpike Road. The meeting may also be listened to or viewed by the public through a link located at mass-southborough.civicplus.com/674/virtual meetings.
Okay, this is a little different area. You want to give a quick overview of this one as well?
So this commercial customer wanted to install EV chargers for their electric vehicles. And in doing the location that they wanted to set up their station, we need to install this intermediate pole so that they could go underground from that location instead of the two existing poles that are out there, 15, 16 would be a little bit further away, and to not deal with voltage drop or things of that nature, or taking up too much land in that particular location. That this made the most sense with a straight shot to the EV stations.
Any questions?
I do have a question. Is this something that the customer there pays for this pole now, or does Grid actually pay for the pole and make it back on the power you sell?
They pay for the pole because it's a commercial need that they have. They need for their station. But as far as credits, I know that we don't get into the billing part of it as engineers. But I know with electric and EV things like that, and anytime you get into solar, things of that nature, there are credits that come into play. I don't know the particulars of it.
Okay, but again, my interest is that if a customer wants it, then the customer ought to pay for the pole at least, and that
Right,
should
yeah.
go into the rate base that everybody else pays for. So
Yeah.
electric chargers are good things, and
Right.
that.
What's the business? Do we know?
I don't know.
Let me see if I can see, New England
33 is
Center for
Ravelry.
Children.
33 is,
No,
oh, okay, of
ACC,
course,
okay.
absolutely, all
Uh-huh.
right.
Yep.
So they, yeah, and the other thing is they needed a whole new transformer bank. So, to feed those stations, obviously. So that takes on a whole new weight and tension of the line system that's already out there. So that's where a new pole is just a better way to go.
Good. Okay, I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor? And I move that the board approve the poll petition for 33 Turnpike Road.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay. I think that concludes this evening's poll hearings.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your help, sir.
Sure. Have a good night.
So the next item on the agenda, we have a series of committee appointments and interviews. I do not think we have confirmations of all the people listed here. But I know Dr. Heilman is here. So if you'd like to come, I mean, we know you and just introduce yourself. And I know you were at the meeting where Mr. Warden was talking about his concerns about Atwood Road. And
Yeah.
So I don't know if your interest grew out of that.
Kind of. Yeah, it's just the general, try to help bring the community into the conversations. I was pleased to see that there were a couple of slots reserved on the committee for people within 0.5 miles, and I live within 0.5 miles of the South Union School, and I'm the president of Southborough Open Land Foundation right now, which isn't a butter to the property. So it was kind of a given.
Two
that
for
I wanted
one.
to put my name in, right? But I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Al, you want to?
First, thank you for volunteering. We need all the help we can get. Do you have particular ideas of what you think would be a good use of that parcel and building?
I mean, I think my goal with this kind of stuff is not to go in with any preconceived notions.
Okay.
I think I've been aware of a lot of the discussions in the past of what the fate of the property might be, and about a lot of the challenges with respect to the building and bringing up to code and all of that stuff. So, I think I'd avail myself of an opportunity just to get as broad a perspective as possible from all the stakeholders, and then, try to make the best decision for not only the town and the property, but the people in the neighborhood too.
Okay. Thank you.
Really good to see that the neighborhood is dealing with what's in the neighborhood.
That's right.
Thank you.
My only comment is you've done great work on a variety of other projects here, so I'm delighted that you've applied and would certainly support your appointment here. Thank you.
You took my words, so ditto. So if everybody doesn't remember, Dr. Hyman was Marnie Houlihan's consultant on the outdoor illumination bylaw, and was very helpful in getting that passed. So anytime he was one to step up, I would, very happy to say yes.
Would you like to be tree warden?
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. Well, I just want to take this opportunity to again kind of give my own views on like the purpose of this committee. I think it's important to think about the studies that have already been done for this. So there's already been a study that looked into developing, and I think you were careful in talking about the property as opposed to the building, developing the entire property to make it into a feasible, affordable housing project. So I think one of the reasons why we've come to the kind of the place we're at is that, I mean, there was a bid that went out in 2021. There was only one bidder. It would have involved developing the whole parcel. So the charge for this committee already kind of excludes that. It's really just about use of the building, and from the, research that I've done, it's not economically feasible to, unless the town is going to pay basically everything to convert the property into affordable housing with just the number of units you can fit there without, right? So I think of it as, you know, there's the proposal from St. Matthew's Church. And then I think of this as a committee, like what, are there other viable things that what we haven't thought of that people would want? I mean, a big consideration of this is, you know, the committee might say, we have this wonderful use, we want to do it, but I mean, the big consideration is it feasible? How much does it cost? Right. So if you see it the same way, or
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, it's, for me, it's got to be a mix of practical concern for the building itself and how much it's going to cost. I mean, that could be astronomical for very little return on it. Like we saw with the affordable housing, you know, like, approach to it, just because the building's so old. And to bring it up to code and all that for how many folks you could possibly get in there, the cost versus benefit was offset. Yeah, I mean, I think that there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. A lot of analysis has been done with the property already. I think, you know, what I'd look forward to is spending some time for the committee to really brainstorm about, is there anything else that, you know, look under rocks and everything that could be done with the situation with the building, and to present those and talk about them, hash them out. That's the time to do it. I'm not sure. I don't try to have any preconceived notions. I'm not sure that, you know, where that will go. I haven't really thought
I'm
about
not sure either.
But I guess that's fun, right? Of digging into that. But yeah, I mean, I'm personally not interested in having a lot of, you know, rehashing of stuff that's already been, you know, talked about, because we have the numbers, we
Yeah.
have the reports. You know, I'm sort of looking forward to what are some other creative ideas that could be done with this before we go and, you know, recommend something.
Marguerite?
I did have one question with the committee. Making the decision will involve how much does it cost for certain things. Who can the committee, or what entity can the committee use to get answers on that, so that they can say, this is the thing that would work, this is the thing that won't work?
I was going to ask that.
Yeah, DPW, engineer floating around, I mean, what?
Well,
I think the first thing you do is probably go to the facilities department. You know, I've been through the building with them on numerous occasions, as have others. So they're pretty familiar with that, and they are reasonably familiar with what things cost. You know, so I think that would be your first stop. And then, you know, if you think you need additional technical support, we do in fact have a modest sum of money for engineering support that we could use, or, you know, if you needed some form of technical feasibility or some sort of preliminary cost estimate. So there are resources within the town government, certainly, to start with. You know, I don't know whether anybody on the committee will have a building background, but there are others we could get involved. So there are resources available, and I would expect them, you know, I'd start with the facilities group.
I agree.
Can I add one more thing that I think, I know you guys haven't met yet, nor do you have a chair, and we'll get this information to the chair when you meet and elected. But to me, you know, you got a critical path, right? We're going to know on August 29th whether Finn is going to probably be closed or not. That's when the report goes into the MSBA that says this is, of the 12 choices we have, and there's 12, as far as what to do with the schools, this is the one that we think is the right one. So we should know by the end of August what that is, which I think is going to certainly inform which direction you guys go.
Yeah.
Because either you're going to have an empty building or you're not, right? So to me, that's kind of, I don't see how you do a whole lot to them, but I'm not going to say anymore. Maybe you do come up with things, but that is coming. So it's August 29th.
Yeah.
I don't have anything further to add on that. It would just be repetitive of what's already been said, so. Okay, so I move that the board appoint. And just before I appoint this, we'll make the motion to appoint you to a term on June 30th, 2024, but then later on, one of the things that's on the agenda is to, because as I predicted, it takes a long time to appoint a committee. We have to extend the charge date until, we're going to extend it through December 31st.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I was going to ask about that too, because the dates.
to hold you in suspense, what I think we're probably going to do is appoint you through June 30th, and then I'll be on a consent agenda to just extend everyone's appointment through. Okay, so I move that the board appoint Destin Heilman. Is it Destin or Dustin?
Destin.
Destin Heilman to the 21 Highland Street Future Use Committee with a term to expire June 30th, 2024.
Second,
All those in favor?
congratulations.
Thank you very much
Thank you.
for,
Happy to help.
all right. And then, Albina Filippo.
There she is.
Okay. Hello?
Hello, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. If you want to just, I know that you're familiar to a lot of us. I know I haven't seen you before the board before. Can you just, provide a brief introduction of who you are and your interest in joining the committee?
My name is Albina Filippo. I grew up in Southborough, moved away for about 15 years and then moved back about 20 years ago, I guess. I live on Highland Street, so the property at 21 Highland Street, I'm very familiar with. I also went to school at that particular building. I think it's a really beautiful building. And, I would like to see that we do something with it that's not tear the building down kind of stuff. So that's why I would like to get on the committee, just to see what it is, what the town is going to do with the property. And I realize that there's not a lot of land there, so I don't, that to me says that we're limited as to what we can do.
All right, Kathy?
So hi, Albina. So I'm glad that you have stepped up. I'm glad that you're a neighbor and know the building. So I am all for your appointment. I don't have any questions.
Yep.
Oops. Did everybody hear me?
Nope.
Okay, so let me start again real quick. So hi, Albina. Thank you for doing this. I'm glad that you are a neighbor and understand the building, and we're gonna I support you and have no more questions. Okay.
Bina, thanks for volunteering here. I think, again, very important to have folks who know the neighborhood well. And so I think that it's an important part of your background and will be a big advantage for the committee. So I certainly support your appointment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bina, hi. I know you did a lot for the Youth and Family Services and also for the Council of Aging at the Senior Center. And I know once you start with something, you stay with it. You're very loyal. And my only question, is that the Northern Lights behind you?
Yes, it is.
Good. Okay, thanks.
Thank you for volunteering. I don't have any particular questions. I think we're all set.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And Albina, did you get a chance to hear a little bit of the question or comment that I put to Dr. Heilman?
Yes, a little bit, yes.
Do you have any thoughts or reactions to it? I mean, I was just kind of describing what I see as, I think, the reason why we formed this committee, and any questions about it, or?
No, I think that the committee is necessary. I think we need to figure out what to do, excuse me, with that property. And I know I have some ideas, but I'm not set. Nothing's set for me. Whatever, we come up with to do with it is good for me. Excuse me.
Ideas about how to use the building or the property, or, because I think I think there's a consensus among us. We'd really like to, we're interested in recommendations on the use of the building, but not changing how the, property is configured or anything like that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't really think there is much we can do. Because there's just the property's small. So there isn't a lot that we can do with the property. And I really don't want to see us taking that building down. So I would like to see what we can do with the property the way it is, maybe fix the facade a little bit, change the rooms inside if we have to, you know, use it for town purposes in some way.
Okay. Any other questions? Nope. So I move that the board appoint Albina Filippo to the 21 Highland Street Future Use Committee, term to expire June 30, 2024.
Second,
All those in favor?
congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, and then I think we have some people here for the scholarship committee. All right. I think we can just take you both at the same time, right? No reason not to. You want to just come up and so Maria and Christine? All right, and is Isabel Murphy here too?
But Isabel recommended.
That's what I thought. Okay. Whoops. So same basic format. If you know, want to give you the opportunity to just introduce yourselves, basic information about yourselves, and your interest on serving on the scholarship committee.
I'm Maria Romero. I live at 32 Lattice Farm Road. Been in Southborough for over a decade. I have twin freshmen in high school. You know, I think this is a nice way to be involved in the community, and I understand that we have some scholarships, some of which might be kind of expiring soon or depleted soon, so there's an opportunity there to raise awareness that there is opportunities to donate towards a scholarship and include your family's name, things like that. I'm still going to stay involved.
Great.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Christine Pearson. I live at 30 Laswama Road. I've been a resident for 24 years. I have a daughter who graduated 2 years ago from Algonquin, now attending Northeastern University. And I absolutely know how much scholarships could really help, being the high cost of education right now. And as Maria said, I do think that there is probably more that we could do to build up more scholarships, because I think there's lots of kids, and with the rising cost of education, that kids could really use it no matter what economic background that they come from.
All right. Well, thank you for your interest, and I support appointing both of you. And I just one quick comment. It's always one of the highlights for the select board year when we present the actual scholarships and hear a little bit about the people receiving the scholarships. And another thing which is nice is everyone's a little bit different. It's not all one of the same type of person. I like that.
So thank you, ladies. Sounds like your neighbors. So with Lisa Braccio, how many vacancies do we have on this committee?
So
'Cause
with
your work is
with
about
these,
to begin right away.
Yeah.
This is the time of year you do your
with
thing.
these appointments now, so you had 2 people currently on the committee. With these appointments tonight, you will now have 5 and you'll still have 2 vacancies.
Okay, so you got a quorum.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you guys will be put to work as soon as you get sworn in. But let me chime in with what you both said. You know, the way this fund gets money in part is there's a little checkbox on your real estate tax bill to add money to it. And I don't think many people do that anymore. So if I were you guys, I would spend some time, once you get through the immediate need, which is to nominate the people for this time, is to spend some time on figuring out how you can replenish that fund, because I don't think people pay much attention. A lot of times you pay your tax bill electronically now. So you're losing the ability to check that box and send it back in. So there's some pretty generous people in this town. You just got to get to them. You know, you just got to not be shy and be able to pick up the phone. And I mean, it's a good cause. Who's going to, you know, not want to help with scholarships? And most people, that's a good thing. So I would encourage you to, you know, soon get together and try to figure out ways to get more money back in so we can do more scholarships. So, but thank you for stepping up, both of you.
Again, thank you. I think it's very interesting, very low profile, doesn't get a lot of attention except during the award time, but does a lot of good work. And I think there've been conversations in the past, to follow on Kathy's point, about approaching businesses for contributions as well, because I think there's some interesting opportunity there. And again, I thank you for volunteering and encourage you to go out and find some more money. And if anything we could do to help with that, would be happy to do so. So thank you.
just simply thank you both. And yes, college is costing more and more, and every little bit helps people's morale.
Thank you for volunteering. Quick question, and this may be more directed towards Mark and Kathy. Is the scholarship fund a 501c3? I would encourage you to look at how you could do a Friends of the Scholarship Committee or something the like. The challenge is, if you check off the box on your tax bill, well, an awful lot of people in town's tax bill now exceeds $10,000, which means it's no longer deductible. And so, whereas a 501c3 would be deductible. And so I would encourage you to look at that because, everybody loves a tax deduction. So,
I had this so I'm a tax person, by the way. So the town itself is an entity that you can deduct payments to if you do them as charity. So you could do it, but the town doesn't have the facility to really do the things you got to do when you got a charity, write the letters, So yeah, I think Al's got a good point. We've got a lot of friends groups set up. There's models set up to do this. There's a little more work to be done because it's a separate legal entity, but you might want to convert this to a separate 501c3 to, make sure that everybody, sometimes people really do give more money because they know they can deduct it. So being able to say overtly, yes, we are a 501c3, here's your letter, this is what we do, might get more money. So I think Al's got a good idea.
All right, I think I can do both appointments in one motion. Sure. I move that the board appoint Maria Romero and Christine Pearson to the Scholarship Committee, both for a term to expire June 30, 2024.
Second.
All those in favor? All right.
Congratulations.
Yep.
So one thing I just do want to point out with scholarships, just to put a little bit of a plug, applications are due May 9th. And all that information is on the town website under the Scholarship Committee page. So we invite people to get their applications in so that there's a lot for the committee to do.
So maybe in your next newsletter, you put a plug in for it too.
I will put it in for every newsletter moving forward until we get to the date.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so then the next on the agenda are three people who, well, first I'll just begin with Joanna Shiner. We already appointed her, but then I guess there is a rule. You have to come in and get sworn in within 30 days of your appointment, and that didn't happen here. So we're just gonna
Reappoint
her. I move that the board reappoint Joanna Shiner to the Recreation Commission rep to the 21 Highland Future Youth Committee, term to expire June 30, 2024.
Second.
All those in favor? And then Lisa and Freddie. So I move that the board appoint Lisa Braccio to the Scholarship Committee with the term to expire June 30, 2025.
Second.
All those in favor? I move that the board appoint Freddie Gillespie as the OSPC rep to the 21 Highland Future Use Committee. Term to expire June 30, 2024.
Second.
All those in favor?
All those opposed?
Great. So the next, I think that takes care of all of our committee appointments, right? So the next item on the agenda is the water rate discussion, but I think that Matt is not available till 8:30, 8 o'clock. Oh, okay. And see, this is the problem when you're running a little ahead of schedule, but
actually, Mr. Chairman, if we could do the Atwood lead update, but since Bill is here, it should be relatively quick, but we can not have him have to stay later.
yeah, what I was gonna do is we just go through the reports, and then there's a couple of them that have to do with where.
Okay, yep, excellent.
Okay. So under chair's report, I haven't had a chair's report in a while, so here's three ones. Just want to give the board an update that you remember the incident where someone drove into the hopper at the transfer station. That then triggered a citation from the Massachusetts, I think it's Division of Labor Standards, which told the town you need to take some, remedial, action to make sure something like this doesn't happen again, including us. If you've gone, to the transfer station recently, you've noticed that no top layer of, so I just want to acknowledge the fact that, there was a nice exchange of emails where the state was very satisfied with the fact that DPW had very promptly looked into all the different corrective actions we need to take and closed out that. So I want to appreciate Bill for his good work on that. The second, you'll remember that there was a little bit of controversy about the fact that we had on one of our draft warrants, the town meeting article to transfer CPA funds directly to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Committee, which we've been trying to do for a while. So that we said we would set up a meeting with CPC to talk about, there's got to be a way where we can just come to agreement on this. So CPC met recently, and so they have it's an invitation to the Affordable Housing, and I just found out this today. So it's an invitation to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Committee, not the Select Board, to come to their a meeting they're having on Thursday, April 24th and 25th. So I don't know.
Do we know if it's virtual or in person?
I don't know. I just so Al, do you want me to just kind of transfer this then to you?
Yeah, why don't you transfer it to me? I've got to double check and see if I'm going to be in the country, but.
All right.
And can you find out quickly if it's virtual or not, if we're going to do it? Because I can't do it.
Because I think I can never remember the name. It's like a nonprofit, like an NGO that for CPC, what's it called?
Community Preservation Coalition?
Yeah, Community Preservation Coalition. I remember seeing there's like a template agreement which you can use for it's like a contract between a CPC and a Affordable Housing Trust Fund Committee to make sure that whatever we do meets all these DOR regulations. So I've always thought that could be the beginning of a discussion. And then the Northborough Road parcels, you'll remember we voted to send a letter to the
Seller?
yes, yeah, the property owner, taking the position that we didn't believe that their notice had complied with the legal requirements because it didn't break out different off prices for different parcels. We haven't heard anything back from that, right? We have not. But then, so we did, Mark sent out an email to Planning Board, Open Space Preservation Committee, Recreation. Shopsy
too, yeah.
And Planning Board per their request. And we did note in this, the price was very high, so that we see that as kind of an obstacle you would need to address. But we asked for their feedback by April 12th. And then we'll take this up at our meeting on April 23rd. And that's to meet the timeframes of the 120 days from the notice we received, I think on January 31st.
So it's the first week of June is our 120 days, maybe?
I've been relying on Mark.
June 4th.
Okay.
June 4th.
That's all I got under Chair's report.
Just a quick question
Yes.
on that, just for my own information. If the property owner doesn't respond, what does that entail as far as our pursuing this?
How I interpret it is they're gonna take the position that
they don't agree with us.
Yeah, they don't agree with us. They're just gonna go ahead and do what they think they need to do. And basically just ignore us unless we were to come in within the 100 by June 4th and say we exercise.
That's right.
Right.
All right. Kathy?
So my report is just to continue to update everybody on where we're going with the Neary Building Committee school project. So I want to give you specific dates. Let me start off with this. So we scheduled 2 public forums to invite people to come and ask questions and give everybody a chance because the train's moving pretty fast at this point. So we had the first one, and depending on whether they counted Sam Stivers and Chelsea Malinowski in the 5, I think there were 5 people there. So either there was 3 outsiders or 5, but who cares? It wasn't enough. It wasn't very many people for a project that truly is transformational, cost, what we're doing, et cetera. So we were surprised. So we're hoping that maybe it was a week after school vacation week and people were trying to get back into the swing of things like you do. So anyway, so there's another one. So we've postponed the next one. It was supposed to be last week, but that's going to be in April 11th, I believe. So that one's coming, again, to invite the public in to hear where things are, ask questions, give us their feedback, et cetera. But these are the dates that you should keep in mind. On May 14th, a document is going to go into the MSBA called the PTP, which is a preliminary design program that is going to tell the MSBA what the permutations of the schools we're going to truly look at and evaluate, and then from that recommend one. Right now, there's 12 choices in the matrix we have as a practical matter, because right now we don't believe we can add a grade to Woodward. I think there's really 6, which is to add 2 grades to Neary, make Neary twice as big as it is now as far as grades go, or keep the grades the way they are now, have the 4 schools still open. So I think that's our 2 practical choices. However, they're going to confirm that Woodward really can't absorb an extra grade. Woodward is landlocked. You've got the Choate field in front of it. That's a separate deed. That's got restrictions. You don't have any room behind it. So right now with our demographic study, we've only got a 1-student cushion if we were to add a grade, which of course you can't go with a 1-student cushion because those demographic studies are not that reliable. So I think there's just 2 choices. Put 2 grades at Neary, make it a school twice as big, or leave it the way it is and rehab Neary. So no matter what, Neary still gets rehabbed, but it's either going to be a much bigger school or it's going to be the same footprint it is now, but renewed. Okay, so that's May 14th. Then, and this is how fast this is going to move, between May 14th and August the 29th, the design group, which is Errol Street, is going to evaluate all those options, including Woodward, whether you can add something, and be ready to go back to the MSBA with a recommendation as to which one of those 12 choices is being recommended by they and the Neary Building Committee. So that's not that far away. And then from that point on, they spend, the MSBA meets in October and they give us the green light to that they agree, because they could disagree, they agree. And then Errol Street will start the schematic phase of the project, which is based on the choice that's been made as far as what to do here. So this is all going to happen real fast. That's why I was trying to tell Dr. Heimland that, you know, that decision on Finn is coming pretty fast, given I think it's pretty relevant to what they decide to do for 21 Highland. So any questions as far as where this is going? Okay. So.
Okay, then, Al, you have regional dispatch. I know you had a meeting recently. Do you want to address it now, or because we also have under other matters? We have
I think we can Sam and I can give a pretty quick report. So we held with the chiefs 2 different meetings. The first meeting we held was with the lieutenants and sergeants of the police to sort of talk about, we're really trying to gather, you know, what are the critical requirements that a regional dispatch system has to have. And we had a very productive and useful meeting. You know, you learn a few things in each one of these in terms of how you know, if we're going to do this, we need to plan for success. And we plan on having a similar meeting on the fire side with the chiefs, and that'll probably happen in the next couple of weeks. Then this morning we met with Westboro, had again another very productive meeting. We learned a whole bunch. They are about 30, somewhere between 28 and 30 months away from opening the rec on their schedule. They have not hired a director yet. They plan to hire a director when they have the next tranche from the state. They are planning on asking for the next tranche which would be sufficient to complete the rec center. in the next cycle. So they're skipping a cycle because as they've said, they've lost a year. But they would, one of the things I think we have to ask them is if we join, what are the critical dates to make sure that we don't foul up the application for funding, because they would clearly, if we join, they're going to ask for more money to support us. Probably the most interesting part was the town manager from Grafton has been through this once in Munson. And so he's a big believer in regional dispatch, and he at least he knows where the landmines are, and he pointed us to some people who will tell us, the good, the bad, and the ugly, which I think we should do. I think and thinking about it afterwards, I've got lots of questions, which we need to answer, but I think our next step would be to, we're gonna need to hold, I think, a couple of public forums, and we will probably want to go out and meet with one or two of the groups that have had a successful implementation. Find out, what worked well, what didn't work well, what should we not, what pitfalls should we avoid if we proceed. So 2 very productive meetings. I think we have our work cut out for us if we are going to do something by the next town meeting. I'll let Sam chime in as well.
Again, as Al mentioned, there's a lot of moving parts here. And the Westboro train is getting ready to leave the station, which creates some time pressure. And as Kathy mentioned previously, there are questions around the budget for the police department, particularly here, and that's related to this as well. And so I think the staffing study that we've talked about doing for the police department will be very helpful in terms of shedding some light on issues relative to regional dispatch. And if we can come up with a reasonable proposal over the next months here before the September, whatever town meeting, I think that'll be a good chance to get a good look at what we should do and get a sense of where the support is or isn't for the next steps in the process. But it's moving fairly quickly. And again, I think it's something that we need to address one way or the other, and we're on track to do that.
So I've got things to say about this, but I can wait till we get to
Yeah, let's wait
the police
until,
department, because that's where you're supposed to discuss
Yeah.
this stuff, so.
Yeah.
right, Easter.
I've been busy this week.
All right.
You're the Easter Bunny?
Yeah, yes. So as we found out, there's a conflict between the Easter egg hunt and town meeting. And so I reached out to the head of the Kinder Group, who was very cooperative. We're working with the police department. We've come up with a parking plan and an overflow plan. So we think that we're going to be able to handle both events without a parking disaster, and the police department are on top of this. So I don't think we're going to have a problem. I think the weather is going to cooperate because right now the forecast for Saturday is yuck. And unfortunately, the forecast for Sunday is also yuck, which was their rain date. But
So what do you mean by it's gonna cooperate?
what?
What do you mean then?
Well, their rain date is Sunday. So if they call off Saturday, which I think is the worst of the 2 days, then we don't have a parking problem. But it's spring in New England.
Yes.
I do want to say something about this one.
Okay.
So, I don't think they should have had the Easter egg scheduled on town meeting date. What you said recently publicly is so true. The reason we've got this accelerated town meeting date is to accommodate parents of young children that have sports, have whatever. We moved it specifically for that reason. So you got that going on. And there's another big thing going on that's going to take a bunch of teenagers out of town on Saturday. So the parents have got to drive them there too. That we can't control. But I just don't think we should allow anything to be scheduled on town property on town meeting day because of the having to deal with what we've had to deal with on this, but we want people to come to town meeting.
In general, I agree with you. This event was scheduled prior to, so originally our town meeting date was scheduled for a week later. And there, so there wouldn't have been a conflict, except of course it conflicted with Easter. So we moved town meeting after they had already scheduled the event. So, live and learn.
Okay. And then you have an update on Atwood.
Yes, finally, we got and Bill is here, he can probably chime in with more knowledge than I can, but we got the secondary report back from the consultant. Yes, we've got a lead problem. And it is potentially going to leach. And so the next step is to do more thorough testing, which would be on a grid. I think Bill had suggested that we actually should bring the consultant in to have a chat with us to sort of give us a full briefing. And I think we should do that probably in the next month, just to so that rather we get it straight from the horse rather than me.
Can the neighborhood be involved in the discussion of leaching? Can we do meetings or something like? that?
Yes,
Because
so
they're the
I,
ones that are the most concerned.
to the extent that I have emails, I have forwarded the report to the Sturgeons and Mr. Carl and yes, and if there are other people give me their email addresses, I'm happy to, as we get information, we will disseminate it. There's no secrets here.
They can always call me.
Yeah, yep.
And if we have the engineers in, that will be a public meeting, so people can chime in at that point as well.
Any idea, or is it way too premature to say how much this additional cost is associated
The
with this? Or-
estimate on the next phase of testing was 80,000.
On
And
testing.
yes, what they're proposing to do, because the contamination in the immediate area of the water tank is down sort of 24 plus inches, largely because the foundation of the water tank was down relatively low and then it was filled in over. But the other sites, other testing, the lead was more on the surface and not as serious. So I think what they're proposing is to, in the areas where we think there's contamination, to essentially do drilled sampling at sort of 10-foot intervals, and then at much lower densities in most of the rest of the parcel. I think it may involve doing testing on a butters lots as well. But, we should bring in the guys who really know what they're talking about rather than listening to me.
So the 80K is just the testing?
Yeah. Right.
You want to?
Yeah.
You don't want to ask about them. So the PCB situation, the PFA situation is still good.
Yeah, PFAs are not associated with this issue. PCBs are non-existent at the site. There was lead contamination found at low levels. It had certain characteristics that showed it could leach. So that testing warranted us to get into what we call comprehensive site. So we're going to comprehensively look at the site. It's going to be about 400 samples that they collect on a grid throughout the entire site. So we'll have a good picture, a 3D picture of where the extent of the contamination is. Based upon the outcome of those results, they'll also, as part of this, make recommendations as to what the next steps are for either removing the soil, treating it in place, capping it. So there's a number of options that they can do.
So no good deed goes unpunished. I had heard directly from Andrew Pfaff that you had told him, like you should, that we might have a reserve fund request. They don't have $80,000 left in the reserve fund for fiscal year 24. So we'll have to find the money someplace else.
From my perspective, speaking as somebody who has a well, this is a problem that is a result of the water system and should be paid out of the water funds. This is, I can't see asking people who can't connect to the water system to pay for this.
Well, we're about to vote on new water rates tonight. They definitely don't have this built into it. So.
And Al and I have had this conversation. I know, and I'm not familiar with the entire history of the water system and the way it was structured, but only recently it became an enterprise fund. So I'm not sure what the structure was previously.
Yeah, we met with Brian and Mark, and so had a very brief conversation about this, but it's something we're going to have to deal with. So
Well, we've got money in the ARPA bucket for sidewalks. Remember, Capital asked us to keep X amount there, but move the rest of it because they can't get it done. So we've got some extra money there we could use if we had to. I don't know where else we get it.
So just speaking from a public health point of view, I'm really glad that we found this.
All right. I mean, this is a discussion that we're really going to continue when
Yeah.
later.
We'll
in
have
April.
regular updates, I'm sure, on this.
Okay. Anything further on that, or Mark, do you have anything under town administrator's report?
Everything has pretty much been town meeting related, so I'm sure anything that comes up under the item later on, I can chime in on that.
Glad to see that come back from the printer.
Okay.
Everything, yes, everything is set. Our job is to make sure that everything is good when the moderator drops the gavel at 10 a.m. on Saturday.
So it's 7:30 now. Is Matt is available
I
or?
haven't heard from him, but
All right.
he said 7:30-ish.
Ish. Oh, we can just keep going through the
Fence.
All right, so for the consent agenda, I'm gonna hold A. Any other holds?
I want to hold.
Okay,
Question.
all right. Any other holds?
Nope.
Just before we vote on D, I mean, one thing I saw is, I think some of the job descriptions still refer to Board of Selectmen instead of Select Board, so that's an easy. Okay, yeah. I move that the board approve consent agenda items B and D.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay. And then, I had some edits to the open session. That's,
I had edits to both of those.
Sam, do you want to go first, or you want me
Sure.
to take a stab at, see if, all right,
Good. Small points, on the 227 minutes.
Yep.
Line 152 should be expressed. Uh, 152.
I can find it, 152.
152.
Yes, expressed, yes, okay.
And line 247 should be Willow Street.
Yep.
Culvert. And line 260, I don't want to put words in Ms. Cook's mouth, but it looked to me like that should be, Ms. Cook does not support
What is it, saying 60?
260. It looked to me it was inconsistent, I thought, but maybe I misread.
I was not a support, I believe. It just
Okay.
said, he was not a
Does
support.
not support, okay. And that was it for me.
Okay, I had on throughout, Orden should be Warden. So that's line 17 and 144, it's WARDEN. And on line 29, Sam, where you said Mr. Stivers asked if the ARPA related audits had concluded, were you talking about FEMA or CARES instead?
All of the ones that we had submitted claims for.
Oh.
And that had to be audited by somebody to confirm that it was appropriate expenditure.
Are you fine with how it is?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I probably could have been more precise, but
Those are the only edits that I had. Any others?
not on that one.
Okay, I move that the board approve this February 27, 2024 open session meeting minutes as amended.
Second.
All those in favor? And March 4.
I only had one on the March 4, a cut and paste typo at the end talking about next meetings. There's a Monday meeting in parenthesis that should be removed. That was actually from the prior session's minutes.
Any other
That's
edits?
it. That's it for me.
Okay, I move that the board approve the open session meeting minutes for March 4, 2024 as amended.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay. And then, Kathy, you had a hold on C.
And if Bill weren't here, I'm gonna tell it, but since you're here, we're just gonna take advantage of being here to answer all these questions. So I've just never seen anybody do something like this. So she already did one exchange in 1990, right? For-
Cemetery grave.
Sorry, Bill.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Sorry. Where she
Can
wants
you
to
come
swap
up, Bill, to
lots.
the mic? Thanks.
Okay, so she's already did one in 1990, she did unusable lots, got two usable lots, right?
Right.
And now she wants to swap again for something for.
Sorry, Vanessa, thank you. So she wants to swap two usable for two other usables this time.
Correct.
Right.
So the first swap may have been at the request of the town. We don't know. It's unclear. Apparently there were some tree roots that were growing over the plots, so the first swap that occurred, it's unclear as whether they initiated it or the town initiated it. Nonetheless, it happened. Now, they have a situation where they have a member of their family that's in the wall. I'm not sure what they call it, the wall. And, they would like to continue that trend. So they would like to swap the grave plots for the wall.
Okay, so my real question is, when someone asks to do this, we say yes, as long as we can do it. There's no money involved. There's no anything. We just say, okay.
I think the monetary issue actually would work to the town's advantage, so that they're not seeking to have an exchange of funds. But I think the wall units are $600 and the grave plots are 500 off the top of my head, something like that. I'm sorry, vice versa.
Hands down.
Yeah, vice versa, yeah.
So,
And-
but it, 5 or 6. I just, so this, if someone comes to you and says, I'd like to do this, as a rule, I mean, you may not even know this. I've never seen this happen. We say yes to this if it happens?
Yeah,
a big
in the
recollection.
time I've been here, I think I've only seen, this may only be the second or third one I've seen. So they're fairly rare. But yes, the board has historically approved these.
Okay.
It's my understanding this is the regular protocol. Yeah.
So this opens up two lots or two plots for someone else to come in and buy that with the lack of room in
Pretty
the
scarce
cemeteries is probably a
resource,
good thing.
yeah.
So that's probably the good thing for the town is you got two plots that somebody could buy. Okay, so that's it for me.
I move that the board approve the request to exchange cemetery graves in the Rolled Cemetery in our packet.
Second.
All those in favor?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I think we're now on the second page of this.
Our water
Oh,
thing is ready.
That's right.
Yeah.
Matt's here. Let's get into the rates. So you came all the way up from Cape Cod?
Yeah, it's got it.
Wow. Where in the Cape were you?
Dennis.
Dennis. Wow.
They're starting to, not, you didn't ask, I'm sorry.
What'd you say?
They're starting to put a sewer system in, so it's.
Oh,
late at
interesting.
night. Anyway, I'm here now.
They held a quick meeting down at Dennis.
They did, it was way faster than
Are
I.
you making a suggestion about our, length of our meetings here or? All right, we're going pretty fast this one. Yeah. All right, should we just turn it over to Matt for part 2?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Matt Abrahams from the Abrahams Group. Thank you, members of the select board, for your flexibility. I know that my schedule is a little bit of a challenge tonight, and I appreciate you working with me on that. In the end, it proved not to be, but I thought it was going to be. I appreciate that. So we do have a presentation for you this evening, I believe. Do you have that? Okay, I have it if you don't. So tonight we are going to talk about water rates, the conclusion of our rate study, and perhaps a vote related to that. So we have some slides related to that for you this evening that we'll run through momentarily. And I don't think this is the right one.
Not the right one.
No. This was the one from last time we were here.
No, but I thought right at the end, there's a. This is what you're,
Yep.
okay, I think these slides are on the bottom, at the end of this, right?
Not the same ones. The ones in the packet are the ones that,
So we've got your slides,
Yeah.
the right slides, they were in our packet, so we've got the right.
Yeah, that's old.
Bill, do you want to, or,
Do you think what we've got here is old?
no,
That's.
that is,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
he's got the new one and we'll have that up momentarily.
So while he's teeing up, can we talk about a couple of things that are, I think, are related with water?
I think this is gonna be like, sure, but this is gonna take like 3 minutes, so.
Yeah, well, this is quick.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just turning to Al. So as far as whether to include Atwood in water, the Water Enterprise Fund versus General Fund. The Water Enterprise Fund was started 7/1/19, I think, if I might remember correct. So it's been in place 4 years and it had nothing to do with old problems. So to expect the Water Enterprise Fund, which is a separate entity that's got to carry its weight, it can't go get money anyplace else. To do this and fix it, I think is probably unrealistic. So I'm not sure that is, even if it should, I'm not sure we could.
The conversation that we had with Mark and Brian suggested that even prior to 19, that the water funds and the water fund maintenance were handled separately from the general fund. So I think this is one where we need to dig in a little more. We've got a little bit of time to be, we're not, if you want to use the ARPA funds for the next round of testing, and then we can figure out, how deep the hole is. My guess is that we're probably not going to be addressing this much before, in this current fiscal year.
Yeah.
You
But-
could do it at special town meeting though.
Yeah, we
There's no DEP schedule of when you have to do anything, right?
No.
There is not.
Okay.
The levels didn't warrant that.
That's good.
Yeah.
We do have to do something. That's the way the rule works, but there's no DEP reporting.
So I'm not concerned about the 80. I think ARPA is probably the answer there. I'm concerned about the $2 million we just, are almost had to pay to clean up Breakneck Hill. I don't know what the number is, but it's probably not cheap.
I'll let Bill.
You don't have to go. I just don't think the Water Enterprise Fund can bear this is my point. And Matt has put these projections together with cost, he's projected cost for the next 5 years. And this is not in there.
Are you familiar with what we're talking about?
I was not listening. I apologize.
Okay, it's maybe fortunate that you didn't hear what we're talking about. Yeah, and I would just make your presentation with there's no way we can fit this within the scope of that, so.
Okay, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah.
if
It's
you
just
want.
another cost that is related to water that is not in your thing that we're talking about that could end up being a really big cost. But anyway, I think we go ahead tonight without.
Yes,
Getting there.
yeah.
Know what we're up against.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer in let's take it one step at a
First
time.
things first.
That's right.
Good advice.
All right.
Okay. So this is I believe the slides that you've seen for this meeting. We will run through them now, and this is similar to the presentation that was given last year around this time for rate setting. So recent results. The top table shows rate changes, rate and tier changes and base charge changes over the last few years. Prior to FY16, I believe rates hadn't changed in many years. There were tier changes that year as well as a base charge change, and then there were a few years kind of in the middle there where nothing happened. And there has been rate action the last few years. As we talked about last time, there were changes to the tiers for this fiscal year, FY24, as well as a change to the service charge, and we'll talk a little bit more about that momentarily. The bottom table shows recent financial results, and what's interesting about that table, to me at least, is that weather drives the results in this town pretty often, or almost all the time. You can see that there's a year where there was a deficit, 20, then the year of a nice surplus, 21, and then the opposite, and then the opposite. Went back and forth for 5 consecutive years. So something to keep in mind as we move forward is that weather patterns do play a role here for sure. And that does make, you know, projecting where we think things are going to end up on the difficult side. You know, you kind of play with averages and whatnot, but just something to keep in mind that weather clearly has an impact on the bottom line, so to speak, here. Another thing that in this table that I think is of note is the retained earnings results, and that's the bottom 2 rows of the table. And the reason why I highlight that is because the target retained earnings amount that we have discussed in the work that we've done is 20%. And when I say 20%, that is 20% of the expenditures for the water fund in a given year. In the recent past, it has been above 20%, but we'll show you as we move forward here what we think that's going to be in the next few years. Next slide, please.
A question about the retained earnings line. That's a balance as opposed to, it's not the traditional retainer. It's a balance, correct?
It actually is traditional in a way, but they adjust it. So for example, if you try to follow the numbers through, you can't roll it through. They do things to it. The state requires certain things to happen to it, but it is truly retained. It really is your net profit left over that you don't.
It's the
It really is a
cumulative profit.
Yeah, it is. It
Okay,
is.
all right. That
It is, but that number is actually, as was just mentioned a moment ago, is there are other things happening with that number. It's your profit, but then if you vote to do certain things with retained earnings, it's not going to be reflected in that number. So it's not truly your profit. It's what you have available in your reserves. That's really what it is.
It's unrestricted.
it's retained, it's the cumulative profit or the retained earnings. It's not the profit, it's the retained. It's a balance.
It is the profit, but it's less what you've used that profit for, meaning you may have taken some out to do something with it. It's everything else.
Yeah,
But
we're using the same word differently.
Okay.
It's okay. I get it.
All right. This slide talks about expenses are projecting forward, and it's a busy slide. I'll just kind of highlight a few things here. The MWA assessment is obviously a big factor in the water budget every year. This past year, so for 25, which is the fiscal year we are focused on, the assessment actually went down because of the weather in 2023. So calendar year 2023 impacts the assessment for the next fiscal year, which is 25. So if you think back to the summer of 2023, it was very wet this past summer. And that had a big impact on outdoor water usage, which ultimately had an impact on this town's usage compared to other communities that are MWRA members. And that's the main reason why the assessment went down. Now, the year before was the opposite of that. It was very dry the prior summer, and it had the opposite effect. So the assessment went up that year. The current fiscal year, FY24, the assessment went up because we were coming off of a very dry season.
So we're basically an irrigation heavy community.
Yes.
Okay.
And what's interesting about that is the MWRA has its costs. They assess those costs to its members, right? And every member pays based on how much water they use in a given year. But there are some members who are not irrigation communities, as you say. They might be more urban. So weather patterns don't impact them quite as much. They're more standardized. So you'll see more wild swings in a community like this where weather pattern does impact than you will in urban community where their usage is, I'd say, not impacted by weather patterns or not as much.
Are MWRA's cost of delivering water mostly fixed?
Think so?
I think so too.
I haven't
Mostly
analyzed
it's a
that.
huge amount of debt
Yeah.
that they
So that's fixed.
serve, yeah.
So I think they're fixed too.
On the other hand, I mean, again, a lot of people and
But they're still fixed. They're still going to work
Yeah.
there, just like ours. We're
Yeah.
considering ours fixed.
yeah, it is basically, yeah, you're moving water through there, and you gotta have the system to move the water regardless of how much you move almost.
So there may be an electricity component.
Yeah,
that can move
electricity, the
water.
purification, ozone and UV they use for purification chemicals to some degree. So those vary by how much they treat.
Sorry, Matt, keep going.
No, it's
We'll
okay.
see
These
what
are
my
good
questions.
questions. These are good questions. So the MWRA in their budget document, they talk about how if you're looking forward, they say to anticipate an increase of 3.9% annually in their budget. But looking at what it actually has been the last few years, it's been 3.6. So it's been a little bit less than that. But one way to look at it is that the town's assessment should in general go up by an amount similar to that on an annual basis, not every year, but averaging out over time. Okay, so the assessment for FY25 is just over $1 million. It's about $1.1 million, and the total budget is a little over $3 million. So that gives you a sense of the assessment's impact on the overall budget. For debt, that the table that is on the screen or in your handout is the debt for the last few years plus projections. And when we're talking projections here, we're talking debt that is already on the books. Your existing debt, it's already on the books. You can get that schedule from the treasurer if you wanted to. And then anything that we've projected based on the conversations that we've had with the work that we've done. And in this case, Lover's Lane, the mains project for Lover's Lane is a part of this. We have projected debt related to that. So I just want you to be aware that is in here. Also, there is other capital that we've included based on the plan that Bill has provided. There's planned equipment purchases of 80,000 in FY26 and also 55,000 in FY28. And in addition to that, annual engineering is in the plan as well and included in the analysis that I put together. Engineering at 250,000 for the next fiscal year of FY25 and 100,000 per year in the 4 years subsequent to that, FY26 through FY29. And we also include inflators. That's what the last statement is for. We take the budgeted numbers and we inflate them going forward because generally the expenses don't go down year to year.
But you didn't do that with engineering. You did 250, then 100, 100, 100. You didn't take the 250 and go up 3%.
For engineering.
Oh, I'm sorry, the capital engineering. No, the engineering, the capital piece is different. When I was talking about the inflation, I was talking about items that you'll find in the regular operating budget. So this is kind of the expense slide. Any questions related to expenses? Nope. No? Okay, next slide, please. So projections, what does it mean from a bottom line standpoint? Now, this is our baseline scenario. So what that means is, what do things look like if nothing changes on the revenue side? Now, that is not likely to happen, of course, right? And a responsible board wouldn't let that happen. But we just like to show you it kind of as a starting point. So what it's showing you is that if you didn't do anything at all for the next 5 years, well, really 2 years, you have enough retained earnings to cover you for the next fiscal year, which is FY25, but not beyond that. You technically would deplete sometime between 25 and 26. Next slide, please. So the base charge, we talked about this last time a little bit. An update to the base charge took place for the current fiscal year, FY24, that was approved by this board about a year ago. It was similar in nature to what was in place prior. However, nobody knew how those charges were formed or how they were set. So we decided to do a redo on it and focus on certain costs so that we could say that it is a cost-based charge. And the work that we did together last year, we focused on some fixed costs. Specifically, we focused on salaries, not including overtime and indirect costs. And then we set the service charges for this fiscal year FY24 to recover those costs. Now for FY25, if we're talking about using the same exact methodology, those costs have increased quite a bit. And we talked about that last time. So if the board were to authorize the same methodology, we're looking at about a 24.8% increase in those charges for that reason. And I've listed for you here that the salary piece went up about 8.6% for FY25, and the indirects went up about 49%. And that was mainly due to the OPEB that we talked about last time. And we've shown for you on the screen or in your handout, if you were to authorize that increase, what those charges would be for FY 25.
So the salary, 8.6%, but that doesn't include the OPEB part of that, right?
No,
No,
So is it
salaries are
including-
departmental salaries.
it's only their gross salary, period.
okay? Is it an adjustment to the, like, what percentage of employees' time is?
It is. We do share our time, a number of staff, myself,
Yep.
new engineer position,
Okay, yeah.
the admin. So all of those are broken out.
All right, okay.
Between the tax base and the water rate.
Okay, all right, thanks.
These are just. Sorry, these are just department salaries.
Correct.
There's not a benefits line in here.
No, that's where the OPEB comes in.
Yeah, well, OPEB is different than benefits.
Well, except that when they say OPEB, they really are picking up current benefits and retiree benefits.
Yes.
They're just calling it OPEB.
Okay,
Because, he keeps all the benefits on the town side. So it really is current benefits too.
Well, indirect costs include the OPEB contribution, but also includes other costs, and other costs are benefits and other things, but benefits are part of those other costs that make up the indirect costs. So just picture, I don't know how many there are, 6 or 7 line items that total up to the total indirect cost number. OPEB is one. You'll get employee health insurance is another one.
okay.
Retirement is probably another one. And then shared services like
Yeah, so
Right.
as long as you
Vanessa.
counted them all.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, they're all in the indirect cost total.
And that's what went up so much between 24 and 25, because the OPEB consultant we have showed Brian, how it should be corrected. So that's what caused us to go up so much. It went from 249 to 372, which is 50%.
Should have been doing it previously, but haven't been.
Right. Yeah. It was a catch up of sorts. Okay. Next slide. So a recommended option. Now, this is assuming that the service charge or the base charge increase that we just talked about takes place for FY 25. And then we're assuming that the base charge would go up 4.5% from there, because that's what we assume those line items will go up year over year. We don't know if that'll be true, but that's our assumption for now. So if those things were to happen, then we think the town can look at a 3% increase per year on the flow base rate. So just to recap, if the base charge were to be increased based on what we showed on that prior slide, we think a 3% increase is justifiable for FY 25 for the flow base rates.
This is 4 quarters.
4 quarters.
Yes, thank you for clarifying. 4 quarters. So we originally did our analysis thinking that we're getting a full year's worth of revenue, and based on where we are on the calendar, I guess our impression is that that may not happen at this point. But we still wanted to show you what it would be if you were to, if we were to set rates based on 4 quarters worth of billings at the new rates. And that's what this slide represents. So with that rate plan, you can see in the middle table, our projections, the way that retained earnings end up, we're somewhere right around 20%. Then it dips below a little bit. You can see that in the graph as well. And then it goes back up to the orange, which is what we're trying to do. We're trying to hit that 20% target, as I talked about earlier. And then in the bottom table, you can see a sample of different users based on usage. So what their current bill would be, and these are per bill amounts, not yearly amounts. These are per bill amounts, which is quarterly. What their current bills are compared to what their bills would be if the base charge and if the rate as we presented were to be authorized. And again, this is based on 4 quarters. Next slide, please. So we also updated the analysis based on recent discussion, because if the town would not be able to bill 4 quarters at the new rate this upcoming fiscal year, what we think it would look like if the town were to bill for 3 quarters of the year at the new rates. So that would mean that the first quarter would stay at current rates. And we did update our analysis, and this is what we came up with. So everything else is the same from a rate change standpoint, except for the flow base rate for FY 25, which went from 3% to 3.5%. And then all the other numbers on this slide in the tables, plus the graph have been updated to reflect that.
I thought we talked last time about being able to get 4 quarters in. Is that
We can, but they're gonna have to do it retroactively to March first, so we're already March, whatever.
right past that?
Matt, one thing that wasn't in this package and maybe up here is I couldn't tell what so we're still gonna have 4 tiers.
Yes.
Okay, and all we have to do is take the $2 and the 469 and 737 and 1076 and multiply times 1.035 or 1.03 to get to what the new ones are.
Correct. We have those numbers for you if you want to know what they are, but yes, we did
I'd
not,
like to see them, but I just want to
we
make.
did not put them on the slide. You're correct.
Okay.
So basically what we are headed toward doing is this recommended option with 3 quarters of billing.
Well, that's what I think our question is tonight. Do you want to do it retroactively to March first, or do you want to start at June 1st and do it over 3 quarters and have it a little bit squeezed? But to me, there's no difference between 3 and 3.5.
Minor
And
difference.
I really hate to do something retroactively. to
I do
people.
too, yeah.
Even though it's small bucks, I just think it's not a good practice.
Give them a chance to adapt if they choose to.
Yeah.
And I think if you take a look at what Matt is presenting in terms of the difference between what it would cost under 4 bills for someone versus what it would under 3 bills, it's minimal.
Yeah. It just has to do with if you do it over 4, and I was tempted to do it with the 4, but I'm gonna go with the 3 because it just evens it out a little bit, right? So it gets you back to the 20% retained earnings in the next fiscal year. But so you do with 3 quarters, you have retained earnings of 18.6%. It's not super ideal, but is it the end of the world, or? I don't think it is. Well,
There's no hard line there, in my view. Yeah.
Unless Al makes us put Atwood Street through it.
That's right.
Well, we can have that discussion later.
Oh, good.
This doesn't, is all, I have well.
Yeah.
I don't have town water. It's not available to me. And, if I figure out what it costs me amortized over long periods of time, this is actually a reasonably good deal versus the alternative. It's, if I were a really heavy water user, it might not be, but for an average water user, and I've sort of had an eye-opening experience in the last few weeks. My wife has been working with refugees coming into this country, and every family that comes in, the first thing they want to do is buy bottled water, because in huge parts of the world, you can't turn the tap on and drink it. And it reminds me how lucky we are that this infrastructure exists, and that, we don't think twice about turning the tap water on and drinking.
Yep. I'd just like to make one other point
Yeah.
related to the quarters, if you don't mind. Some of the work that we did when we were looking at this over the last few months or few weeks, we did take a look at the different quarters and generally how they relate to one another from a usage and a billings standpoint. So just so you're aware, the quarterly bills, usually the first ones go out early July. So that would cover a time period of, I believe, April to June. I think that's what it is. And then the next one would go out in October, and that would cover July through September. So what's interesting about that is historically in this town, the first quarter is not the highest bill. The second quarter is the highest bill, because that's where you get most of the outdoor water usage during the driest point or the warmest point of the calendar. So I just want to let you know that if you set it for the 3-quarter thing like we're talking about, you would still catch you would still catch Q2, the highest one.
People have opportunity to adjust in the most significant way there, which is good.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're suggesting we pray for a drought?
I'm not suggesting everything.
That doesn't pay for water.
So the decision we make is, to go with the 3 or the 4, and whether we're good with the prices that are reflected here.
The philosophy.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I would go with the rates reflected on slide 7. The recommended option with 3 quarters. And I think it shows that the sticker shock you see on the percentage increase on the base charge, it just doesn't translate into
Not in absolute
in
dollars.
absolute dollars. And this is for a year, so it's an increase of $12.
And seniors are given a big break, so that's helpful to know that.
Yeah, I just went purely off of the average residential.
And I'd also point out, Andrew, that I guess there was one more slide in there that compared us to other towns. I actually recently saw MWA Advisory Board puts out an annual survey of comparative water costs for all MWA communities. I saw a preliminary draft of that, and Southborough is a real bargain. Our average cost for consumers for water is in the low end of the MWA, I think 53 water communities or however many there are there. So, I mean, yeah, it is more expensive than towns who don't have to pay for water. Ashland, for example, has lower costs, but the quality of water they get is substantially lower as well, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, that was a good reminder. We actually do have one more slide for you, and I apologize. I forgot that was at the back of the deck. Can you go to the next slide, please? Oh, no, this was
on the one.
We've got it.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, it was when I sent Vanessa, it was on there.
Must have sent to the wrong version.
I could just speak to it real quickly. So I thought it'd be a good idea to take an opportunity to look at some of the surrounding communities. We looked at Northborough, Ashland, Framingham. For an average user using 2,600 cubic feet per quarter, Northborough was $195 to $195.40. Ashland was $105.88. Framingham was $212.20. And Southborough, as proposed with the 3/4, is $148.49 per quarter. Now, the interesting things that jumped out at me too, two of those communities have a separate rate, which is significantly, it's the high tier for irrigation.
Right.
So it not only discourages overly using water, but it also gets us more revenue.
How do they know what's irrigation, what's not?
Separate meter on the irrigation system, yeah. Yeah, I hope they don't do that for our golf course. Because I'm a fan of the golf course, but that does make sense, certainly. Yeah.
And the theory there is that it's non-essential water usage, right? So
exactly, yeah.
So
pay a
you
premium
can
for
cut
it.
it off if you need to, so.
And in fact, many people drill a well for irrigation purposes, which is not a bad thing if you, or at least need a high volume of water. So.
Okay. I move that the board approve FY 25 water rates as reflected on slide 7 of Mr. Abraham's presentation.
Second.
All those in favor?
Okay.
Thank you.
Good.
All right, we got our water rates.
Can I just add one thing? I'll be back frequently, I think, to the board for a number of changes that we have going on. We're gonna adopt some regulations. We have some fee structures that we need to implement because we're actually losing money in some cases. So we're gonna bring that forward on a case-by-case basis. We'll chip away at it and then come back and we'll explain those at the appropriate time.
Water related or DPW related?
Water related,
Really?
yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you next year.
Boy.
Thank you.
All right, I propose we just take a quick 5-minute break before we go into the. Yeah. All right. Okay, so we're on the home stretch of our agenda here under other matters. So we got three kind of sub items under town meeting preparation. So just sequentially, I think the first one that's going to come up is discussion of select board report to town meeting. So Al, do you want to just discuss what you have in mind?
Sure. You know, I'm going to actually blame my daughter to some extent, who says we never present sort of the big picture of where we're going and what we're doing. We kind of operate transitionally year to year to year. And the board, I think, needs to, we've set as a goal to improve our communications. And so I think it would be useful to give a brief report of the big issues that are likely to face town meeting over the next 3 to 4 years. You know, clearly, the nearest school is one, the community center is another, regional dispatch is one. And then I think probably our transportation infrastructure is another, and then possibly you know, the need to consider the disposition of assets to help fund these other worthy causes as a way. And I think we can do this in 5 to 6 minutes. I don't want to make this a long question and answer period. It's simply a way of informing people of the sorts of things that are going to come up and that we're going to be talking about over the next couple of years. And, you know, we're sitting here at town meeting, we're talking about budgets and the taxes to support those budgets. And I think it's important that people have the big picture of the things that are coming down the pike as they consider authorizing these things. And I put together, you know, a very crude draft, just about, you know, how I would go about doing it. And that's my thought.
All right. Kathy?
So Al, I appreciate your suggestion, and I think we all want to improve communication. I just don't think town meeting is a place for us to do a report. No, there's a practical reason. Number one, Mr. Smino, at pre-town meeting has stated that he's not going to allow any reports, after he bangs the gavel. He's going to let people do a few things in front of it. So, but that's when everybody's going to be moving around. So planning board is going to do a quick MBTA thing. Library is going to do a thing, but there's no reports after it's gavelled. To me, this is stepping a little bit on the toes of advisory. They've done a really nice report. It's about to go public, that includes some of the things in your report, not all of them, but some of them, includes more. If I had done this report, I would have done it. I would have had some things in that you have. I would have not put them all, and I would have had different ones. This is Tuesday night, so I don't see how we get it done before Saturday. And given he's not going to let us do a report after he does the gavel, and I do, you know, to me, I know how important town meeting is to all of us. That's town meetings day. To me, it's more of an advisory show than ours. We're there to participate like everybody else. I just don't think it's a place for us to do a report. But I'm not opposed to finding a different place to make sure that we continue to try to communicate better. I mean, I just told you 5 people came to the Neary public meeting to talk about the Neary school. So it's hard to get everybody's attention. People are scattered all over the place. So I would not vote to do a report at this town meeting from the select board.
I think the reason why I was thinking about it is if you go to town meeting, I'd say 75% of the people that go to town meeting are what I would describe as regulars.
Yeah.
And they are, you know, for better and worse, the thought leaders and the people who participate. And I think, you know, to the extent that they are made aware of what's going on, that's important. But again, yeah, I hear you that we're rather late in the process.
We also just finished the annual report to the town. Vanessa worked on that. So that's going out as we speak, right? Yeah, so that just went out too. So that is a report from us to the
Advisory?
town. No, that is our report.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
Advisory, advisory is required by their bylaw to
Yes.
write a report.
to
Yeah, meeting.
yeah.
They have-
Advisory's report is live on the
It's on there
website.
now, good.
And there's copies here if people are interested.
Okay. Go ahead if you have a comment.
Like, I think it's saying some really good things. When I first read it, my response was, oh my God, no, they will spend so much money. We won't have any money left. However, I think this should go out maybe printed before the fall town meeting, because it is important that people understand what's on the horizon. So I would also present it as value added near a school so that we can have a good school there, right? Regional dispatch so that we've got more increased safety. I mean, what is it bringing to the town rather than a bill? That's how I would just sort of soften it, but I think it's really good, except MBTA is not, MBTA, is that, oh yeah. But I think the points are well made. I think it's too soon for this meeting, but maybe in another format, maybe not as a spoken presentation for the fall. Definitely.
I got mixed emotions in that I think that, again, these are important topics that the public voters need to know about. I sort of view town meeting as sort of the legislature's show as opposed to the executive branch's show to some extent. And you know, I've seen other towns actually have this kind of report that's printed and mailed to citizens, basically, which is pretty expensive. We probably wouldn't do that, but having it on the website like advisories report, and I'm not sure I'd call it report as much as looking forward or something like that, which I think this is, and that to me is part of our job, is to sort of set expectations going forward, as opposed to reporting on what's been happening recently, which I think is much of what happens at town meeting. So, but again, I haven't had a lot of time to think about this. I just saw it today here, but maybe if we could get something together, put it on the table outside town meeting hall for people to look at, or certainly before the fall town meeting, have something that says, here's what you can expect going forward. I think that's a sort of a very important function to get people alerted to, socialized around ideas that they're going to have to deal with that we don't do a very good job of historically, as a matter of fact. And you're right, Al, you've got a couple hundred folks who are fairly actively engaged. The rest of the world shows up, expects to be educated. And sometimes that's a challenge to do quickly in a reasonable way. So I'm sort of waffling on this one, I guess, for this meeting.
Just one thing, in fairness to Al has been, came to me with this idea a while ago, and I just didn't put on the agenda for the meeting. Obviously, is now the timing is kind of tight, but and I didn't know until the pre-town meeting that we had last week that what Paul's going to do is have these reports before the gavel rather than
I didn't know that.
Limited to 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine.
Again, the concept I think is very important. If I were going to do something for this meeting, I'd probably do it as a handout outside and title it not report so much as I can't think of the right term off the top of my head here, but looking forward or issues to be addressed at future town meetings for consideration or something like that. I don't know.
And I would also, go ahead. Oh,
yes, Paul?
Hello.
Hey, I want to be careful to clarify one thing that I previewed at my pre-town meeting. The reports that I am talking about that will not be heard after the gavel are reports for the sake of reports, decoupled from individual articles. Hey, this is what our committee's been up to for the past year. Hey, we want to give out an award for, the best dressed citizen, and, will so-and-so please come forward. Those are pre-gavel type activities as far as I'm concerned. I think that's the best use of town meetings time. You guys may have plenty of reasons not to want to go along with Mr. Hamilton's suggestion. But the select board have plenty of articles that they will be the moving party for. And there are opportunities to say something about those articles in each instance. If this is germane to one of them, yes, it's a 5-minute limit, but it is available. So I just want to be very clear about that. That's it.
Okay, that's helpful, but I think that again, even if there were a place in all the warrant articles to have comments about any of these points, I think taken together, they actually tell a pretty important story. So it seems to me you have a lot of, important message to say all these things together are things that we and the voters need to be concerned about going forward. So I think it dilutes it a lot if you spread it out over too much. So that would be my concern of doing it that way.
Agreed. And can I just also make one other point on this? When I read it, I think it would be good if it said, this is what we are trying to bring to the town to improve it. A better school, a new community center, fix some roads, rather than saying, here's your tax bill, right? So just to sort of say, this is what we are trying to create for you, because it's true. We want a new Neary to make a better school.
Yep.
We want to do regional dispatch if that's what happens, to make that more efficient. I mean, these are not things that are being imposed. These are benefits that we're trying to negotiate for the town. That's just, I just slant it like that.
Yep.
All right, I mean, my view is I don't see this as something we're gonna be able to pull off for Saturday, and I mean, part of that is just, I didn't put this on the agenda until now, and it's kind of unfamiliar with the whole concept of this, because I don't think I'd seen it done before, other than, Kathy or Paul, what you were referring to, there used to be a lot of reports, that were all good, very civic oriented, but they just took up a lot of time. So it used to be that, you'd have the gavel and then there'd be an hour before anything substantive really started. And that,
yep,
I like the idea of just cutting that out, getting right down to business. So I think this is something where for the next town meeting, I think we just got to think of, if we do this, we just got to consider it a little bit earlier. And then part of this challenge here is I was so focused on just getting the warrant done and getting all of our positions done on that. Felt like you needed to get that done before you consider what is the overall message that we're sending. All right.
So we go on hold for this meeting, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I get that the time, the schedule doesn't work. I think what I'm gonna task the other four of you with is we need to do this sort of thing. And we need to do this in ways that we haven't done in the past, because what we've done in the past, frankly, isn't working. I've got family members who follow town things and they don't have a big picture. And so, we set as a goal, 7-8 months ago, that we wanted to improve communications. And it does seem to me that this big picture about where we're going in sort of roughly a 5-year window, people don't know. And, people ask me all the time, and they don't know where we're going. And, I think we have an idea about where we're going and what the big issues are, because, we live them every week. But, if the 150 regulars that attend town meeting don't know, then we're not doing our job. And, this is part of leadership.
Yep.
Is explaining to people where we're going and why we're going there.
But I'd push back a little on that. I think we do have that. And in fact, we have a master plan. And that master plan that very few people know much about, as a matter of fact,
I rest my case.
Is out there. It's been publicized, and it has a lot of these kind of things on your list in there in ways that we've not collectively done a good job communicating it. So I think we've got a lot of good raw material to work with. But to me, the challenge is creating messaging that takes that information and puts it in a way that people are willing to look at, focus on, and understand. So I agree. It's something that we need to think about and work on and do a better job of.
Yeah, we have lots of pretty piles of paper, And, you know, if you went to ask the town meeting, how many of you have read the master plan? You know,
Very, very small number.
it'd be a very small number.
But in truth, we actually have made progress on a lot of the master plan implementation steps.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good stuff going on that people don't
Yeah.
understand at this point, I think.
You know, I understand where we are, but I'm going to be a little bit Johnny.
Agreeing with you that we need to continue to strive to communicate better. And I think Mr. Purple's newsletter is a big step in that direction. Ironically, one of the things that was most successful, and Sam knows about this, probably Andrew, is when Karen Galligan was still here, I think she only did it once, sent out this pink postcard-like thing that updated the town on things that are going to DPW. And it was actually well-received and well-read. Don't ask me why, because how many of the stuff do you get in your mailbox every day? I toss them as fast as they come in, right? But that one got a whole lot of praise. So don't ask me why that one kind of hit a nerve and people read it, but they did. So
we had to think about those kind of things. That's right.
well, of course, it's really easy.
I'm warming to this idea. I know that we have anything where it's gonna be 5 of us have to get behind everything, the same thing we're saying, it always takes a little bit of time, but
Yep.
I mean, just thinking on the spot, kind of like an analogy is in a city, right? The mayor can give a state of the city address. I think that's kind of one event where there's a overview. And even just at my firm, our managing partner recently gave, was small, was in our little cafeteria, gave a state of the firm address, and that was the first time it'd done. It was partly to just, support staff, feeling like don't know all the things that the partners are talking about, associates feeling like they don't have the same. So that was all intended, and it was very well received, and it was focused on a lot of, operational things. So that's another way we could
maybe do that with Southborough Access Media, put a video out for
and actually
town to view.
Maybe that's something we'll put on the next agenda.
I could-
Because Doug Peck of the Council on Aging, he is looking for Mark was just on his program recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually saw that.
Yeah, what'd you think?
Very informative.
Yeah, so
You work on your makeup.
So Doug is, there's not much we can do about that, Sam. I could just darken the screen a little. But Doug is started a new program, with Sam. It's about 30 minutes, wants things to be topical and trying to have a focus on seniors. I've given him suggestions on, next set of topics. I've suggested Tricentennial Committee to come on and talk about some of those things, but I think it'd be good, to have a member of this board or something in that who wanted to carry forward, some messages or information from the board, or, tag team this, myself, member of the board, and use that as a vehicle. One thing I appreciate that the board is seeing that, we're trying to put good information out through my newsletter, but it only gets to certain places. We did actually get an email from somebody who wanted to know if they can get email blast to get this. We were so excited, right? Because you get people who are reading these things. So it's great. So I think that is something that, that is another vehicle that, that could be, that we could put information out through and do it in a fairly, concise.
But as Al suggests, it's hard to get people's attention. And so I think you got to have a structure that has multiple channels of communication. And Doug's show is one, certainly. There may be others, maybe some of the every doorstep or every mailbox postcard thing for certain things to make more active outreach. That costs a little over $1,000 each time, I think.
We did it with the ARPA committee. Remember that? That was I think, a smart investment.
Yep.
Okay.
The Westboro website does a lot of that work. It's got the golf club building on the homepage, the new community center. It's up on the website.
Yep.
I agree.
It's up on
That's
the
part of it too, is
Yep.
to make sure the website really does reflect
Go
a
to
lot
the
of
homepage
interesting
and-
stuff right on the opening page.
If only we had more technical people.
At the risk of getting into trouble, I will note that I think that the town meeting should have been featured prominently on the homepage, but that's just, I've already gotten in trouble for,
Of the town?
It's Westboro.
yeah, on our town.
This is
website.
I agree with you.
Right?
Yeah.
I agree
There's
with you too. You
The
get in trouble for
ATM
saying
is
that.
right up. Crash, she broke her thing. This is Westboro. They've got the News and updates
Yep,
right on the
yep.
homepage.
And many towns do that kind of
Yep.
thing, yep.
So, yeah, fixed. Saying.
Okay. So the other items to discuss are assignment of motions and presentations for the warrant articles, and has everyone had a chance to look at the cheat sheet in the packet?
Yep.
So here, and Al, this kind of goes to your point, but I mean, this is kind of a unique year where there really aren't, we don't have any PowerPoint presentations that are gonna be, you know, every year in the last 5 that I can remember, there's been an article where the select board is, you know,
Yep.
taking the lead on it. And for example, you know, there was a presentation about the Breakneck Hill Remediation Fund. Here, other than really like the Public Works Planning Board one, we really don't have presentations that accompany any of these articles. And a lot of the select board ones have actually just been moved to the consent agenda.
Yep.
Benefit of that is a little bit, again, things go a little bit faster, but is everyone okay with the motions that they've been assigned for each article?
I was expecting I was gonna get the Public Works Planning Board thing, actually, but it's not a big.
Well, we can do some trades.
Okay, then I don't understand. Maybe I've got something that's old. What I've got doesn't have any, oh, this is where it's assigned. This, okay, sorry, I was looking at this.
Red, one with red on it.
thought it was old by the time, because some of it was on the.
Well, Sam should do, or Sam should do the public works.
I don't have strong feelings about it, but there's good news and bad news with my name being associated.
Got it.
But,
Well, it's split between you and me.
So Sam should do that.
So just flip it with, yeah.
No, I don't.
So Kathy, if you,
We are lost because we can't find our copies.
Right, and I have the consent agenda.
they're in the packet.
Or we can share.
Packet supplemented the packet.
The packet itself.
It doesn't involve glasses. Well, thank you. It is in the packet.
Oh, okay.
So Kathy, you're assigned Public Works Planning Board right now, but if you could simply switch with Sam with the one next to it, which is Capital Improvement Planning Committee, but that's on consent, so. That
It's
may work
fine.
out.
I could care less of
And
which ones I'm doing. So
two
Sam should have.
articles.
Yeah, okay.
2 articles,
Which number?
amend the special, Andrew has amended the special act. Which is,
Yeah, we can, do you want to just be assigned to make the motion for both of those?
I mean, I don't know, does it make sense to consider those together? Somehow, maybe not.
33 and 34?
33 and 30, yeah, 33 and 34.
Sounds like it does.
But again, I don't feel.
You gotta
strongly
let
about
Paul know that's what you want to do, if you want to talk about them both at once.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to talk about them both at once.
Okay. So Andrew, you do the special act and I'll do the Public Works Advisory Committee.
Okay.
And then Kathy does the capital. I don't like that, Kathy, because that's on the consent agenda.
Fine with me,
I lost my consent agenda.
fine with me. Okay, so we just switched. That's easy.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Have we gone through these to see which ones, though, even though there's not a presentation, we still need to say something to explain it?
No, that's okay.
The ones that were going to require more of a presentation were the budget, if there was a significant increase for the police, right, which there's not. And there are a couple articles where we would be having kind of more of a presentation in opposition, but I think that those are going to be some of the.
Okay, so what about 23 and 24? When someone stands up, like Matt Probst, and says, okay, I see
So there's-
advisory voted against it, why?
Well, these are school committee
I
articles.
know, but he still may, if someone, all I'm saying is if someone asks select board why they voted not to support the regional school stabilization, Who's going to answer that question?
I think we had a split vote on that.
We did, 2-3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So usually the chair talks about that stuff.
Okay.
I'm happy to do that,
All
but
right.
if someone else wants to take care of it, we could also, you know,
Because there might be some discussion
understand.
about stabilization with John Butler there. There
understand
really
now.
could be.
Yep.
Advisory voted against it 0-6.
I think our vote was 4-1,
3.
2.
That's for the,
Algonquin regionalization was 2-3.
Yeah, right.
So I was in the 3, Al was in the 3. Who was the third that was against it?
I think I
Hold
was,
on, hold on, stay with regional. Who was the third vote against regional? I know Al was no, I know I was no. Who was the third one?
I thought I voted for it.
I voted for it.
So Marguerite must have been the third. Okay, so that's your 3. So,
There's no presentation to make if we're divided, but
but they still may ask why you're divided. Well, why were the 2 this and 3
Sure.
that? Okay, so I'm just saying be ready for
Yep,
that
Be
one.
ready for for each side to have somebody willing to speak.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy to speak about anything that I voted for, and I'm sure everybody else is as well, so.
Assabet's a little bit different. We voted for it, advisory voted unanimously against it. So there you may have, okay, advisory says yes, select board says no. So can you kind of explain to us why you two look at that one differently too? So someone just needs to be ready for that too.
it's pretty much the same issue, except of a different magnitude.
I think the answer there is it's such a small amount. We're like,
Yep.
5% of the total thing. And do you want them to have to go to 7 different
And we're
towns?
one of
to
7
get
there.
every single capital item improved? Or you just want to say, look, we know there's a cap on it. And we're willing to let that one go because it's so small. Which is why regional is different. Those are big numbers. It's only 2 towns. Each town gets a say so in what the project is.
Yep.
oh, there it is. Well, but this is Assabet.
So you ready for both of those?
Sure.
Okay. What else is like that? Oh, irrigation. So Al, you definitely voted against irrigation, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to speak.
Okay, well, okay, well, that's what we're trying to do is figure out who's gonna say what, because that was a 4, well.
So
Can we vote that?
it is a 3-2 vote. We went back and looked at the last meeting as well as the minutes. There was a discussion and I believe the chair, the final comment in the discussion was the chair had said, well, I don't think that anything we've heard and everything is going to change whether we support or don't support the article, but there was no additional vote taken. So the vote on record right now is
3-2.
3-2 to,
Marguerite's the other nay?
excuse me?
Marguerite's the other nay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so you were nay, Marguerite. So there may be Al does the against and you do the pro,
Sure.
okay, or Sam does the pro. Because Al, you're. Whatever.
Al is more a master of the details of the golf.
Well, he's gonna do the nay.
Yep.
Okay, somebody's gotta do the, why did 3 vote for it too? So he's gonna say why the 2 voted.
I could do the,
He could do the
pro.
3 voted for it.
Okay.
Okay.
so, okay.
And advisory ended up supporting that 6-0, so they're unanimous for that one.
Okay, do you have any other suggestion ones where you think we need to designate someone to? No?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think the rest is pretty easy until we get to the police department budget.
I mean, what I've always done for where if I have the motion, I get prepared to make a brief presentation about it if I have responsible for the motion, and most of the time, it's not necessary.
Yep, yep.
I just know sometimes we turn and look at each other instead of knowing exactly who's gonna do what. That's I'm trying to make us like the.
Sure. And the ones we've talked about for that are, okay, we just talked about, the stabilization fund, so that's 24. And the Assabet.
We all agreed on the South Coast Special Ed one, so.
Your mic on, Kathy?
Oh, okay.
Okay. So we agreed on that one.
Talking about the, not 24,
So 23. Oops, not 23. 23 is the easy one.
oh,
That's not what the-
26,
yeah,
26.
26.
And 31. And then Sam, you and Tim and Debbie are gonna do the presentation or,
Well, my understanding was that you were gonna You don't have a presentation, but there are these slides prepared and,
There's slides in, just in case. Yeah, I'm gonna
okay,
make the motion.
yeah.
So then you should handle the questions of that one if they come for a select board,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You know, one that might get pulled up consent is the pension thing. You got some financial people there, so they might really want the pension one. So it's on consent.
Bonding.
So we'll see.
Yep, and I can be prepared to talk about that if it gets held. $41.
Yeah, and I can talk about that too, as well, if it gets really dicey.
See, I think that one, we don't spend a lot of time on. Look, it's
Yeah.
really small. It's tiny. We voted for it. Advisory voted against it. So let them explain why they're against. We'll explain, somebody here will explain why we're for.
Yeah.
So then the other thing that we should do is just get prepared about for the citizens petitions that are likely to or might go forward and have some discussion. And where the select board didn't support it, who would be the person we turn to explain why not to support it. So that
I
would,
always said he's gonna pull his 21 Highlands, right?
Yeah.
So we're just gonna assume that for the moment, right?
sure. I mean, I can be prepared. It's not going to happen, but just in case, I can give a very quick.
All right, so you'll be ready for that one.
Yep.
And then the one,
CPA,
the CPA one,
he's not gonna pull, he said.
he's not gonna pull, but.
There's no
Okay, but is
consensus.
Jay gonna say what I think he said he's gonna say, that is not going to fly with the Attorney General? Jay's gonna say that, right?
I believe so.
I was gonna turn to him, so we shouldn't have to say anything about that one.
So what about 6 and 7, the dispatchers?
We're
Again, here
saving the
there's-
whole night up for that one, so if we're ready for that one now?
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, before we move on to that, any other articles where we feel that we should coordinate who's speaking pro and con before? And we can also
Think so.
finalize all this Saturday morning too,
what time are we gonna be there?
8:30.
8:30.
8:30?
Oh, okay.
Sorry, bring some donuts. Yes,
Mhm.
Who's bringing donuts?
I'll do it.
I'd be happy to do it.
Job of the chair.
Yeah.
I agree.
Hi, Paul. What kind of donut do you want?
I'm a blueberry cake kind of guy.
Okay.
I raised my hand because, it seems like a little thing, but coordinating article by article by article by article and who's talking and who's not and where I'm going once I announce it doesn't happen on Saturday morning. So if you guys could pull this together well in advance of Saturday morning, I'd be much obliged. But you don't have to respond to that in real time. Just, I want to make that request.
Well, but Paul, we don't have presentations, right? But
You know, Paul, how sometimes someone gets to the microphone and they ask a question and you'll say select board, advisory. And so we're just trying to be prepared for when you do that so that we know who of the 5 of us is going to speak. And I'm sure advisory do the same thing.
I may have misunderstood. I thought we were talking about who's making motions.
No.
no, that's already been assigned.
Fine, I withdraw it. I appreciate it. No donut for me.
Okay, so do you want to talk about the dispatch?
Yeah. Okay, so Mr. Butler may join us at some point. He was interested in this. So we've got to talk about Articles 5, 6, and 7, and then 8. So at the pre-town meeting, Mr. Semino agreed that he is going to merge the discussion of 5, 6, and 7 together. So unless Bonnie changes her mind and agrees to indefinitely postpone 6 and 7.
Yeah, he's.
Already? Well, let me get it out first. Paul, are you ready to talk before I finish this?
Well, I want to be clear again. I'm not merging 3 articles. I said we're going to have one conversation. That's
That's what
Article
I said.
5.
That's what I said. You merged in the discussion of 5, 6, and 7.
No, I'm not even talking about 6 and 7. We're gonna talk about 5. And I expect Ms. Faniff to raise her issues in regards to 5. By the end of 5, I think 6 and 7 should be moot.
Okay. All right, so I apologize.
No
Okay, so,
problem.
what I think we need to come up with tonight is a plan to, hopefully have a chance to explain to town meeting what's truly going on here in a very objective manner. So that we explain first before, the discussion about why 6 and 7 are there takes place. So we got a chance to get the facts out on the table, before, Ms. Faniff, does what she's gonna say. So her plan right now is to hold 2 budgets, the budget for communications and the budget for benefits. She has reduced the amount that she wants to, put into Article 6 and 7 by exactly half. So she wants the money that she thinks accommodates 2 dispatchers for July 1st. So what I'm hoping, and see what you guys think, is that we're able to make a presentation that convinces town meeting that we have a plan in place, that we acknowledge we really need to address the police department personnel based on everything we've heard, whether it's dispatch, whether it's a new lieutenant, whether it's the 6th person that Chief Newell wants, but we need to be able to do it in a manner where we've got some facts behind what we think we need. And the plan is to immediately after town meeting, if the article that puts $25,000 into the consulting budget passes, we will, on that following week, be ready, hopefully, and I'm looking at you, Vanessa, to hire that consulting firm. This is already taking place, that we've already got 1 proposal. We're trying to get 2 more to be ready to go, and include the fire department personnel in that proposal. So have a chance to explain all this to town meeting. So I asked Mr. Semino about how we could possibly do this, and he was going to think about how, we could do it so that we basically go first, and try to explain all this. Also bring in the regional discussion that, we're trying to get there. We don't have a recommendation yet. We're working very hard to come to a conclusion as to whether we should expand our dispatch locally or to go to the regional system. But we need time to do it. And our plan is to bring it to special town meeting in the fall with all this wrapped into one package, because they're all related. How do you hire a dispatcher if you're going to go to regional in a year? How do you find people that would even work for a few months? So it's all interrelated. So it's trying to find a way that we speak first about that, so that town meeting is not confused about what is going to happen afterwards, which I think could very well happen if we don't go first. Then separately, did John Butler send that email to everybody? Okay, so Mr. Butler and Bonnie have sponsored the next article, which is to say, look, we are asking you to not sign a rec IMA until you bring it to town meeting to discuss all the terms, the major terms of it, just like we did with the Hopkinton Water Project. The exact same analogy can be made. So that's kind of separate. And he has written to us and said, if you will tonight say that you agree, you plan on doing that, you think that's where you're going, you plan on doing it. And I think he used a much more firm word, which we probably can't do because nothing's 100%. But if it looks like that's our intention, which I think it is, to do that, then he will definitely postpone that article. And you may, I don't know if you talked to him too, Al, but that's kind of.
Not on this call.
Okay. I personally think bringing it to town meeting, as far as once we get to the point, we think we've made a decision, right? This is what we think we should do. And then bring the town meeting in the fall with the major terms so that people have a chance to weigh in, tell us what they think. I think it's absolutely the right thing to do. So I would have voted for that article anyway. I think it's a good idea, but he's saying won't even get into it if it looks like that's where you're going anyway.
Yeah, Paul?
Yeah, again, so just by way of clarification, Kathy, when we talked, the way it ended up and the way, and I thought possibly by tonight, this may have occurred, is that further discussions about the best way to proceed between the select board or its representatives and Ms. Faniff and Mr. Butler were going to occur between the last time you and I talked and today. sounds like maybe that has not occurred.
No, so if I can jump in here, I've talked to John as recently as I think yesterday about this. So what he's suggested to me, and he said Bonnie is on board with this too, is that if it indeed is the case that the select board, and I think we said this at one of our prior meetings about 6 weeks ago, we can say it again, that we are not intending on voting on a IMA for a regional dispatch before it comes to town meeting for input from town meeting, not necessarily approval. And I think someone used the phrase I like, advice, but not consent, right? So I thought we had already said this before in a meeting, but and we can't, this board can't bind what the next board would be after the next election, because we don't know, it might be a different election, it might be a different board. But if it's all the five of us, I think the sense that we had before is that what we're doing is after town meeting, for the rest of the spring and summer, select boards digging further into the details about specific regional proposals, with the idea of coming and making a presentation to the fall town meeting to outline what we have in mind, and to get with the idea that any IMA that we would want to enter would be better off from getting input and feedback from town meeting before making a final decision about whether to sign it. Is that?
That's my
Capture it?
understanding. Yeah, that's my understanding.
Well, so why don't I put it in form of a motion so we can be on the record? And so I move that it's the policy of this town of Southborough that the select board, in the event that it desires to enter into a rec, will make a presentation to town meeting to seek its advice, understanding that the ultimate decision resides with the select board.
All right, I think that you've captured it. Yeah, so I'll second the motion. Any further discussion?
Should it only be town meeting or should there be other meetings?
Oh, there will be lots of other
ultimately,
meetings.
yeah, ultimately town meeting.
This-
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
what this article's about.
Okay, all those in favor? So I think that should satisfy. Hi, Paul.
Hi, Andrew. My previous comment was about 5, 6, and 7, not 8. My understanding was that
That's right. We are talking there just about 8, not about 6 and 7.
right, but when we get into, am I still talking? And my hand went down.
You're still talking.
Okay, when we get into this, the last thing that was said is not about who talks first, etc. It was, can we get, those who care the most about this on the same page before Saturday, which moots all of the issues about how we combine them or who talks first, or, can we come to some mutual consensus to avoid all of this? And that's what I was referring to when I said it sounds like that has not happened.
No. So I think based on the vote that we just took, I think that will be the case.
Andrew, you keep talking about 8. I'm talking about 6 and 7.
Okay.
So Paul, you're right. It hasn't happened
Yeah.
yet. I thought Bonnie would be here tonight. She's not in the audience either. But so it doesn't mean we're not going to try, but we still need a backup plan if it doesn't happen.
Okay.
So then
I'm just looking for clarification on that. Thank
so
you.
we should have someone, again, we have a split vote. But now Bonnie did say at the pre-town meeting that she was going to amend her citizens petition on the floor to reduce what she's requesting for not 4 additional dispatchers, 2 additional dispatchers. So I know my vote would be the same, which is to not support it, because our plan is to moved quickly to get a staffing study done for both police and fire to get an informed recommendation about if you decided to increase your dispatch operation locally, this is what you need to do.
Right, yeah.
And obviously, then there's a different discussion about if you decide to go rec, but between now and then, we should let the process play out, get the feedback from the staffing study, and then make a decision in fall.
Right, yeah, I'm looking for a professional opinion on this, professional, objective, third-party
Okay.
input.
Andrew, where's the money for the staffing study coming from again?
The select board consulting article.
That's on the consent list.
So John, I see that you're in the audience now, but I don't know if you, when you joined, but you know, we just took a vote that I think addresses the issue that you had raised with me.
Number 16.
Yeah, if you want to come over. Okay, he's raising his hand. Yeah. So basically what we voted is, let's see if Al, do you remember it exactly?
Let's see, I can record.
It's the policy of this.
Is the
board.
policy of this board that if we desire to enter into a rec, that we will seek the advice of town meeting prior to entering into that agreement, with the understanding that the ultimate decision lies with this board, or
Yep.
words to that effect.
And then,
Okay, so can you hear me?
yes,
Yeah, so great. Then if you make, so what I had reviewed with Andrew, I'm not sure, I'm sorry I had to join late, but basically, we'll put it on the floor in the wording of the article. And then I think we'll tell the moderator what we hope to have happen. Someone on the select board will make the statement that Al just made. And I will move indefinite postponement, if that's, because that's the main thing we're asking for. So great, let's get rid of it. Is that okay with you guys?
yeah, I think it streamlines the discussion.
Yeah, streamlines, we don't need to vote to ask you to do what you're about to say you're gonna do anyway. So
Well, we
let's-
just voted.
We just voted.
Just voted to do that, John.
I understand, that's great. So,
Yep.
right, we don't, what I mean is, we don't need to have town meeting do that, is what I'm
Right.
saying. We don't need to debate it, you're gonna agree to it, that's great. So I'll just move indefinite postponement as soon as
Okay.
you say that, okay?
Sounds good.
All right, so Andrew, the last procedural thing is you and I should both tell Paul Semino.
He's on here right now.
He's
What?
with us. He's with us.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you very much.
So John, before you go, people keep throwing you into 6 and 7 too, and I keep saying you have nothing to do with 6 and 7, which is the money. Is that true?
That's true. I don't even know anything about it.
Okay,
All right.
that's all Bonnie.
So on 6 and 7, do people agree that's the basic bottom line reason, at least for those of us that did not support? Well,
Yes.
actually, Al, does your position change at all if Bonnie moving it from 4 to 2?
No, I think we,
Okay.
We've got a good plan, and our vote is unanimous. This isn't a split vote.
No, it was a split vote on 6 and 7.
We voted for that budget unanimously the second when we finally did it.
yes, for the budget, yes, but,
Yeah,
That's-
here's-
and then
We did.
it was a split vote on 6 and 7.
Yeah, I think you're pointing out there's an inconsistency there.
Yes.
Yes.
There is.
Hobgoblins of,
Yeah, I voted against the. level
Okay, so
service
then the
budget.
3 of us
I
had
wanted.
voted no on that, which would be Sam, Kathy, me. Any takers to make a brief statement?
I'll do that one.
Yeah, I voted because I wanted more than that at that point.
correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
The process is that we'll take the police budget. The police budget goes onto the floor. And then Ms. Faniff will move to increase that budget by the amount that is in 6.
This is the dispatcher budget.
Well, it's,
Dispatch.
she'll move to increase the police budget because that's where,
No, it's a separate communications budget. So it is, she knows what it is. It's 218. She's.
no, I understand, but we have not split out the we did? Because I never voted on a communications budget.
We did.
218.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
If
There is.
you look on the printed warrant,
Is,
your suggestion was adopted.
oh, okay.
See, Al?
They listen to you.
But I do,
It's a big mistake.
I do think it is inconsistent. You vote for 6 and 7, yet you support the budget in 5, but I no reason to get into it, but the two don't
Page
make
26.
sense to me.
So assuming that 6 and 7 get pulled or tabled or whatever, contingent on 16 happening, which is the $30,000 for the study. And we're sure that that's going to occur, right? Number 16 will pass. Because
It
if
has
that
before.
doesn't pass, then,
No, you could still use.
Well, they will use ARPA money.
I know their money. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so Al, if you look, it's 218, so it is a separate budget.
Yeah.
So they did what you wanted. Okay.
Okay, so then Kathy, you're the designated person as to why the majority of the select board did not support 6 and 7.
Yeah.
And pretty much the same reason why you support the level services.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And again, I think it's pretty simple. We need a solid fact-based answer before we move forward with
And
this.
we've made plans to get that
Yeah.
quickly
Yeah,
and be ready for fall town meeting.
very simple.
All right. Last item in the packet, I know there's some materials, so that there's a presentation about the Public Works Planning Board, right? But that's,
Yeah.
you have that kind of in the hopper in case.
I've not put in the hopper. We got a presentation, a longer presentation, but in fact, there are slides in the packet
Yeah,
that I think are appropriate to talk about,
okay,
frankly.
you want
I
So
would,
you're doing those no matter what.
yeah, probably should.
to, okay,
And then if questions come up, there's more material, but I guess I'm not eager to pull out a 20-page PowerPoint thing versus just
no,
talking about it.
what's in the packet is just maybe 5 slides.
Yeah, fewer than that.
Who's gonna lead the discussion on the 5 slides?
Well, if I make actually, the first article is the special act, which is actually
Yeah.
you're lined up.
Okay,
for.
do you want to flip them? I can
Um,
do it, it's fine, but.
Do
Yeah,
the
yeah.
slides all relate
you do it?
to
Okay.
forming the new committee?
Well, slides are basically the whole process,
The whole, including getting rid of,
including getting rid of the old and proposing the new. So those are the slides in the packet. Let me take another look at them.
but Sam, if you've got slides, you're gonna have to get on the stage to do those slides to show, to do it. So Passamino needs those. Does he have the slides?
Did Mr. Lett send those? to Mr.
You're not
S-
allowed to send them. You
Okay.
Folks have to send them.
Okay,
And Jay Montijo needs them too.
yeah,
My suggestion, for what it's worth, was that the slides go on the projector, that Sam or whoever doesn't say anything about slides, but if a question comes up, the slides are handy because they have a graphic representation of the sort of complex process that we have to go through.
Yep.
Yep.
And there's 3 or 4 bullet points on each article.
Okay,
I mean, they're extremely condensed and they're intended to support answering questions, not to make a presentation where we don't need one.
yep.
I thought they might go on the clerk's website along with the frequently asked questions.
okay, and if people have a chance to review the frequently asked questions, it's in there.
Actually, I don't, Tim, the frequently asked questions has that been posted anywhere yet
Well, it's in your packet for tonight.
in the packet? But other than that,
It's been circulated, to various places, as people have
Yeah,
had.
Paul has his, Paul?
I just have a general comment about materials. We talked about it at the meeting last week, materials to the clerk and to the IT, one or the other or both. Those were due yesterday. If regardless of whether you intend to show them or not, or you're just holding them in case, those have to be teed up and they should have been submitted. And I don't think that was, I think that was pretty clear last Wednesday. So there's that. If they exist, let's get them in. And if they are part of moving a particular article, the number of slides is not a concern of mine. As I said last Wednesday, we're going to, with the approval of the hall, we're gonna limit, article motions to 5 minutes and subsequent commentary to 3. So, that's a lot longer than it sounds.
Anyone have any problem with giving the slides that are in the packet to Paul?
Tomorrow morning.
Nope.
All right, and then the last thing to talk about is the handout of the FAQs that Tim prepared. I mean, I found them a little too much detail, but what do other people think?
That's the handout put on the table. That's what we're talking about?
A little late for that, isn't it?
Not to put on the table.
No, for something that's on the table,
Yeah.
you can just do that that
That
morning. Yeah.
Morning. Yeah.
Is that what we're
I guess-
talking about? Is
yeah,
FAQs?
In the packet. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about handing out the FAQs, frankly.
No,
That's
I'm not either.
A lot of detail for people to read.
So I would just hold.
I'm
on
not
that.
sure how controversial this is gonna be, frankly.
I'm
I
not.
don't think it is.
I don't think it's gonna
this
be
is gonna go
controversial
fine
either.
through.
I don't think we're gonna, I mean, to me, there's a risk of making it too big a deal and as opposed to being ready to answer questions about it, explain to people what's going on, which I think we are ready.
Okay.
I mean, the meeting last town meeting, the people got up and said, get rid of it.
Yeah.
Get rid of it. So.
Yeah, I will point out to Tim that, of course, as a town meeting member, you have a perfect right to put information on the table.
I'm not trying to run a different campaign for you. I was
Yeah.
asked by you and the planning board to put something together. I've done it. What you do with it is up to you.
Okay.
I thought that having, what's basically, 2-page document available might cut off questions. I would rather have people not ask questions and take up the time of town meeting, but
Yeah, I think we can
not
talk
always get
about,
answered either way.
Okay.
I think we can talk about questions that might come up versus making it higher profile.
Yes,
by handing
I think-
something out.
Distributing something that answers a lot of questions before the questions that actually been raised, I'm just would wait for the questions and then be prepared for answers.
Yeah. I think if we send a packet, presentation
Yeah.
material, the town clerk, if we get that on the list,
Okay.
that would be good. And then
So who's doing that?
hope for the best.
I'll do it.
I'm doing that right now.
Okay.
Mark has it. So.
And so I think the only
The
other,
best,
are we pretty much done with town meeting?
Mm.
Okay.
I think so.
And we can review it again all on Saturday morning.
Okay.
So we have a room?
What do you say?
We have a room?
We have a room. I don't know which room, but
We have a room.
And donuts.
Joe Donuts.
It's on the agenda.
it doesn't matter. We'll just find it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll remind you.
So, next item on the agenda is amending the charge for the 21 Highland Street Future Use Committee. And as I was looking at it, there's a red line that just changes the committee's charge date to December 31st, but to go with that, I think we would need to change the date for an interim report to the select board no later than January 1st, 2025. Actually would be the committee shall make a final report to the select board by no later than January 1st, 2025. And an interim recommendation no later than November 30th, 2024.
So interim is November 30th, final is January 1st.
Yes.
Can I do my one grammatical correction?
Sure.
Number 5. Second line, the committee may make use of the technical resources of the town in its deliberations, provided that the provision of said resources is approved by either the town.
I'm good with that.
That's it.
Critical.
I'm Judy Budstead.
Any other questions, comments?
Nope.
I move that the board approve these amendments to the 21 Highland Future Use Committee.
Second.
All those in favor?
So who's gonna make it? Mark?
I'll just, you want me to just hand it to you?
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. And then we'll update the website with that too?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Great.
So, approval of select board meeting calendar from April 1st to June 30th. I mean, the main change is just that we wouldn't be meeting the week of April vacation. Other than that, it's the same.
Looks good.
Okay,
Right, yeah.
Yep.
In office hours?
you want to weave in some office hours here? They're really
Well,
just two.
I feel guilty.
Okay,
I haven't
yep.
done any office hours. Everybody's, I have literally punted.
Nobody came to see me and Marguerite.
And I went and nobody was there.
Oh, yeah.
So very
So
sad.
maybe do one for April, one for May, and I want to do one of the two.
I think we need to do them, certainly.
Yep.
Don't seem to be overwhelmingly popular. At least I'm not.
We got to keep trying.
And hold them at the transfer station. when the
So
weather-
you do it on a Tuesday nights, just like we,
Yeah.
all right.
6 to 7.
Yeah.
So that would be April 9th. And then May 14th.
Could be.
Yeah, that is, so you don't think you can do it that day. And then June 11th. It's really just April 4th and June 11th if you want to try to fit another
Yeah,
one in
I
May.
wouldn't do the May.
So April 9th, right? Is
Yep.
that what you said? April 9th?
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
April 9th and June 11th.
That's good.
So I can do the 9th.
I'm flexible for any of them that need filled, but I seem to be a jinx.
I can do the 9th. Let me just double check.
Because I've already talked to you at the transfer station.
Or don't want to talk.
I already have it on my calendar, so.
So you're gonna do the 9th with me?
Yep. And we just gotta publicize it.
He does a nice job.
Okay,
So who's doing the 11th of June?
I could do any of the needed. Sure.
So Marguerite now?
and then discussion of special time meeting dates, we already pretty much talked about that, but
Yes.
sounded like the target date would be the first, Monday, September 23rd.
Yeah.
Do we want to do Monday or a Saturday?
That'd be a terrible Saturday because you've got sports.
Yeah.
It's sports are going.
Yeah. Yeah, and one Saturday and one weeknight is not, to me, a bad combination for the 2 days.
Yeah.
Well, I'm open to, I mean, do you think it should be on a weekend or a weeknight? The one reference point I have is Fall Town Meeting 2021, the downtown zoning, which is one of the more successful. That was on a Monday night.
Yeah.
It was very,
Let's do it on a
But
Monday.
we get
it drew a lot of
criticized,
people out.
criticized either way, right?
Yes, that's certainly true.
isn't a
Saturday
good day.
allegedly was for the sports folks who could, couldn't do the,
Well, that was driven a lot by some recreation
Yeah.
field articles.
yeah,
I think Monday's good.
yeah.
I think the weeknight works. It also gives some, you're gonna have you aim to get it done in one night.
That's right.
Yep.
It's a much better feeling than annual town meeting, just goes on. all day.
Goes off.
I mean, this is likely to be contentious.
The Monday?
No, the meeting.
I agree. It really could be. So have we checked Jewish holidays and make sure that
Yes.
they're fine? Okay.
Consultant.
We don't need to make a final decision.
Yeah. I think the principle that we want to hold it as early as practical is the key thing.
Yeah.
We don't have to make a decision on the date or the topics. because he's talking about topics.
We
You're
don't need to
talking
set a
date.
date for a special town meeting, but
He's saying that, I think Al's referring to the topics could be contentious, not the
Yeah.
date.
Topics.
absolutely.
Yeah, so.
In other words, it might take more time than we think. It might be 2 nights.
If we're taking a look at the 23rd, do you want me to just check that through the clerk's office with the school, make sure that everything's available?
Yeah, 23rd and 24th.
And 24? Okay.
Fail over, yeah. Yeah, actually, the following week would not work with the Jewish holidays,
Okay.
Right.
so.
Stays away from that.
All right. I think that's the end. Is there any other public comment?
No hands up.
All right. I move the board enter into executive session per general law 30A, section 21, and not returning to open session for the following purpose: to review and approve executive session minutes from October 24, 2023.
Second,
All right, we have to take a roll call vote. Bennington, aye.
Cook, aye.
Stivers, aye.